Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for TWiT specials is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is TWiT Live Special, episode 329, recorded May 7, 2018. Microsoft Build Keynote 2018. The first keynote at Build 2018. I'm Father Robert Ballecer. I'm joined by Lisa Schmeiser. She is the content director at IT Pro Today. Lisa, thank you very much for joining us. We go ahead and go to the Build Keynote already in progress. Mm-hmm. If we could bring them up.
Let's get going. So, I am responsible for Microsoft's relationship with developers. I am an engineer, just like you, and in my role, it's my job to advocate for you. My teams and I advocate for you and your businesses across our product and engineering teams every day. We're listening, and we want to hear from you. A year ago, I was sitting where you are. It was my first Build conference. I had been with Microsoft a little less than 8 months, and I learned about an ingenious device called Project Emma that helped people cope with Parkinson's disease. A young woman stood on this very stage and for the first time in years was able to write her name, thanks to the hard work of some particularly creative developers. I was deeply moved, and I can tell you that's why I love my job. And standing in front of you today, I can tell you I'm so excited about this year's Build. We have built a program that creates a clear vision for where we are and where we're going, both as an industry and as a company. And we've worked to ensure that connection between the vision and the technical roadmap for getting it done is also well defined. This morning, our CEO, Satya Nadella, is going to share our vision for a world of computing powered by the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. We'll then dive first into the platform that powers that vision, Azure, with my boss, Scott Guthrie. Tomorrow, we'll learn about Microsoft 365 with Joe Belfiore. Over the next 3 days, the many sessions, labs, workshops, and theater presentations will get you the information and answers you need to get stuff done. And we worked hard to bring that content to life with real-world examples. In fact, at this year's Build, we have more customers and partners presenting than we ever have before. And they're here to share with you how they solved real development challenges. I'm so pumped about the next 3 days. But I can tell you, Build is only a portion of what we do for developers around the world.
We're listening to Charlotte Yarkoni. She is Microsoft's
Microsoft
VP
got
of
its
Azure
start
Growth
building developer
and
tools,
Ecosystems.
and developers have always been at the heart of what we do.
Father, I think one of the notable
Recently,
things
we've made an investment where we've built a team of global developer advocates that represent the broadest spectrum of communities.
This is a trend that I've seen through several
From
other keynotes as well. Microsoft really seems to be making the case for integrating computing, breaking it out of the silos of data centers, workplaces, things like that, and making an argument that it's ubiquitous and broken down of what we would think of as traditional computing environments.
Every day. You'll find us in unexpected places like KubeCon, NGConf, OSCon, along with Dev Intersections and VS Live. Those coupled with the many user groups, meetups, and developer events that happen in your own backyard. Here at Build, you'll find our developer advocates located in the community lounge, and I would encourage all of you to go by, say hello, tell us what you're thinking, get some help on a project, and hopefully make some new friends. And while our developer advocates specialize in this work, you'll see today that all of us here at Microsoft are here to understand what's important to you, to start a dialogue, to empower you to do more. Build is special because it brings so many of us together in one place. From enterprises to fledgling startups, from Fortune 500 architects to DevOps engineers, from experienced developers to students who are shaping the future of our industry. That mix of talent is on display here today with this amazing crowd here in Seattle and so many more participating online. In fact, we have developers from over 70 countries participating in this year's build, and our youngest build attendee is Disa, who is just 10 years old.
You know, it says a lot that the first person they send on stage is their dev wrangler and not a PR person.
And she's joined by her
C-suite.
sister, Anna, who is just 12 years old.
You're right. It demonstrates a real hands-on commitment. I also thought it was notable that the first person they sent on stage is so strongly connected to Azure.
Right, of course.
When we think about future developers. We recently launched Azure for Students, which enables students to get connected to the cloud and start learning right now. We've also connected universities and curriculum to world-class infrastructure and machine learning so they can empower their students to innovate. Additionally, we've launched Microsoft for Startups, where we're investing $500 million to turn young companies and help them evolve into healthy, thriving businesses. We do this through our co-sell program, where we connect both startups and our partners to our enterprise customers through our worldwide sales force and channel. This program continues to grow beyond expectations, delivering over $2.3 billion in partner revenue to date. And we're also making significant investments in our marketplaces so that we can make it easier for our customers and partners to do business together. So if you're building Azure solutions, please check out our cloud marketplaces. Finally, we are making significant investments in our online presence, making it easier to navigate our websites and documentation while offering increasingly coherent and relevant content worldwide, localized in 64 languages. In fact, everything you'll hear at Build this week about our products will also be available online. You know, Satya often remarks, there has never been a better time to be in technology. I truly believe that. There has never been a better time to be in technology, and there has never been a better time to be a developer. Thank you all for coming, and have a fantastic build.
You know, my takeaway would be that two things. First, they're really going for the international market, and I love that Azure for Students. Tools for free. Yeah. It's a long play. They're going for the developer of the future.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Right now, one of the biggest battlegrounds you're going to see in tech is going to be for the age 12 to 22 set, because those are the people who bring their technologies into the workplace and make them bog standard for the next 10 to 20 years. Microsoft gets them early, and they can maintain dominance in the workspaces that they're already used to having a significant market share in.
It's a very Apple-like play from the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, well, Google's been using it with education to great success. So I think it's notable that Microsoft is expanding it and doubling down on its developer presence and trying to make itself the platform of choice for developers.
Now we get Satya. Satya's coming up on stage. It's got a little bit of a superhero, super rock star thing going on.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to Build 2018. Welcome to Seattle. It's fantastic to see you all back here. You know, this morning I got up and I was reading the news, and I hear Bill Gates is talking about stock, and he's talking about the Apple stock. And I said, wow, in the 30 years that at least I've known Bill, I've never seen him talk about stock, but today must be a new day for sure when you hear Bill talk about Apple stock. So that's the new Microsoft for you.
That's a little salty.
You know, last year, we talked about opportunity and responsibility. And both those topics have been so far amplified. It's unimaginable. In fact, for the first time here last year is when I started talking about the intelligent edge. And 12 months after, it's everywhere. In fact, at this conference, it's going to be something that we will unpack in great detail, the platform advances are pretty amazing. But most importantly, it's the developers who are pushing these platform advances. So to see the intelligent edge go from some sort of a conceptual frame to this real thing that's shaping the cloud is stunning.
Father, do you think intelligent edge is going to get as much traction as digital transformation has gotten in terms of how people refer to the technology and talk about it on a regular basis?
I mean, I'd like to see what their plan is for it, because right now the map is a little bare.
Of discussion. And so I was thinking about the historical parallels where there was this much change, this kind of opportunity, this kind of tumultuous discussion. And I was reminded of a book that I read maybe 3 years ago by Robert Gordon, The Rise and Fall of American Productivity, or American Growth. And in there he, in fact, talks about the Industrial Revolution and even contrasts it with the digital revolution. He gives PC credit for the last time digital technology showed up in our productivity stats, which is nice. But in general, he sort of talks about what an amazing revolution the Industrial Revolution was in terms of its broad sectoral impact and productivity and growth. This is a picture of New York City, probably 1905, I'm told. Flatiron building, and what you see is horse carriages. And if you go to the next picture, this is 20 years after. And you see all the artifacts of the Industrial Revolution and its diffusion. You see the automobiles. These buildings now are beginning to have sewage systems, drainage, air conditioning is coming, radios, telephones, high-rises. It's pretty amazing. But there's one other salient piece to this. The core technologies of the Industrial Revolution, whether it's the internal combustion engine or electricity, are nowhere to be seen. They're invisible.
I was wondering how he was going to tie that all together.
Yeah, very nicely.
I'm reminded of this Mark Weiser quote. The most profound technologies are those that disappear. They weave themselves into the fabric of everyday life until they're indistinguishable from it.
Computing right now.
This was from his very influential paper.
Where we don't even think about the computing platforms that we exercise daily life on.
Xerox PARC. And that's what's happening. That's the opportunity that we see. The world is becoming a computer. Computing is getting embedded in every person, place, and thing. Every walk of life, in our homes, in our cars, at our work, in our stadiums, in our entertainment centers. Every industry, from precision agriculture to precision medicine, from autonomous cars to autonomous drones, from personalized retail to personalized banking, are all being transformed. In fact, if you think about the sheer computing power that is getting distributed and how that computing power is being used to collect data, fuse sensor data, reason over that data, create the rich experiences throughout our life.
This is an awful lot of AI talk for not saying AI.
It's pretty stunning.
I think they're building up to it. I was just thinking the handiest primer you could possibly have for this keynote is if you read Satya Nadella's book last year, because there's nothing he said so far that he hasn't already embroidered in several of the chapters.
Right. It's futurist talk right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But
this gets everyone excited about what they do for a living. I'm making the future.
We have the responsibility to ensure that these technologies are empowering everyone. These technologies are creating equitable growth by ensuring that every industry is able to grow and create employment. But we also have a responsibility as a tech industry to build trust in technology. In fact, Hans Jonas was a philosopher who worked in the 50s, 60s, and he wrote a paper on technology and responsibility. He was not referencing as much the digital tech, and a lot of his work got picked up later in bioethics, in other fields. But he talks about act so that the effects of your action are compatible with permanence of genuine life. That's something that we need to reflect on. Because he was talking about the power of technology being such that it far outstrips our ability to completely control it, especially its impact even on future generations. And so we need to develop a set of principles that guide the choices we make, because the choices we make is what's going to define the future. We're focused on 3 core pillars. First, privacy. Privacy is a human right.
Wow. Privacy is a human right.
At Microsoft have enshrined a set of
powerful message in 2018, especially after what we've seen in the last month and a half or so.
That we preserve this human right, protect this human right. We ensure that when we use data, it is to benefit the user. We ensure that the user is always in control of their data and its use. GDPR is a sound, good regulation. We have been working hard to ensure compliance with it by end of this month when it becomes in effect. We have hundreds of engineers across the company building the compliance infrastructure. In fact, we're going to help our customers who use our products and services get compliant. But we know that this is just the starting point. It's just like security. We're never going to be done. We are going to continuously commit ourselves to work to preserve privacy.
I'm betting he's probably not going to be
Same
talking about the
thing with
Cloud
the
Act.
Cloud Act.
Oh, there we go. How about that?
Oh, there.
Call it up.
I would
has
have
done
taken that
more
bet against you.
in terms of working hard to ensure that there is a framework of law that governs how legitimate governments and legitimate needs of governments to protect their citizens.
I've sat in on keynotes where Brad Smith has talked about how he feels there needs to be more active government policy framed around this sort of thing too. So it seems like Microsoft is going to be messaging pretty aggressively about the needs for decent legislative framework.
We're also working with both sides of the aisle on the legislative process. And so we think the Cloud Act is a good start. It creates a framework. We hope that the rest of the world and the United States can create, in fact, an intergovernmental framework around this. And meanwhile, we will continue to do what we have done, which is to ensure that customers are in control and privacy is preserved.
These
Cybersecurity.
do not seem to follow.
We need to act with collective responsibility across the tech sector to help keep the world safe. We recently formed a program to protect our democracy, where we are going to work with the campaigns, the civic society, other constituents, so that we can secure our political process, our democratic process. We also led a consortium of 34 tech companies with the Tech Accord to ensure that citizens across the world are protected from cyber attacks.
That's concrete.
It's the digital
But the other
Geneva
points have been
Convention
very
of our time.
saying things without saying things.
Yeah. Here are things we'd like to do. Here are
Ethical
ideas we have.
AI.
We think these ideas are good. Oh, ethical AI. Here we go.
We need to ask ourselves not only what computers can do, but what computers should do. That time has come. We formed an ethics board inside the company, which is a very diverse group of people who govern the products we build, the projects we engage in. But beyond that, we are also investing in tools, because one of the key things that we have to do is put tools in the hands of developers, designers. Just like with good user experience and UI, we need good AI. We need to make this a first-class engineering discipline where the choices that we make can be good choices for our future.
With the idea that you can't have good AI unless you have good data, and you can't have good data unless you're tech biased.
Data sheets for software systems. We've always had these data sheets where the input-output was specified and we could reliably use software systems. We need the same for data. We need data sheets for data, so that we can know where the data came from, what are its intended uses. Debiasing word embeddings. So there's some amazing advances in AI around language, except we train on the corpus of language that's out there. And unfortunately, the corpus of language that's out there has our biases. So we need the tools that can debias these word embeddings that we learn because of the state of the art of AI. We also need privacy-preserving AI or private AI. In many cases, you need to be able to take data, have it cross even organizational boundaries. And to be able to do that by using techniques like homomorphic encryption, so that you can learn, train on encrypted data. We're already working on some of these technologies. We have libraries that work with things like Azure ML.
This is an awful lot of trust in the people who are actually writing the AI algorithms.
So these are investments we're making today to ensure
that I'm not sure how much this would trickle down to an actual product development meeting.
AI choices. This is what grounds us. This opportunity and responsibility is what grounds us in our mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. We're focused on building technology so that we can empower others to build more technology. We've aligned our mission, the products we build, our business model, so that your success is what leads to our success. There's got to be complete alignment. So this conference and the rest of my talk is about creating that opportunity for all the developers in the room.
Okay, this is what I want to hear.
We're focused on two massive platform opportunities. One, Microsoft Azure, the other, Microsoft 365. And both these platform opportunities are being shaped by one major shift in the technology paradigm, the shift to the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. And there are three foundational technologies that are impacting this shift. The first one is ubiquitous computing. The world's applications going forward need a ubiquitous computing fabric from the cloud to the edge. They need a new app model that is distributed, event-driven, and serverless. That's what we're building with Azure. Azure is being built as the world's computer. It already has 50+ regions, 70+ certifications, more regions and more certifications than any other public cloud. And that's so that we can meet the real world needs of customers.
So what I'm hoping to hear now, either directly or indirectly, is an argument for why Azure is going to be the world's computing platform of choice and not Amazon or Google.
As computing spreads, as there is need for computing at the edge, we are building out Azure, Azure Stack, Azure IoT Edge, and Azure Sphere as this one computing fabric that supports this new application model. And so let's delve right into it. Let's take one at a time. Azure. We've had something like 130 new capabilities that we have shipped in just the last year in Azure. The pace of innovation is pretty stunning. In fact, there is 70 of them that are going to be launched just at the Build conference. Azure Stack, and of course we have all the customers, the brands you saw in the previous slide. It's amazing to see year over year growth of Azure in terms of how deeply some of these brands rely on Azure. And Azure Stack, which is just a year old, is supporting multiple scenarios. For example, Chevron is using it so that they can essentially have Azure in a disconnected way at their oil rigs. A bank in South Africa, ABSA, is using it for their regulatory workloads, as well as using the public cloud Azure.
This is the dig
And then
at AWS.
Schmeiser is actually doing distributed computing. So they use the public cloud as well as Azure Stack as one fabric to be able to distribute compute so that it's close to where the data is. So these are all new scenarios which are pretty unique to Azure and what it can do. Azure IoT Edge. Again, phenomenal to see the progress. It runs both on Linux and Windows as first class, and we're pushing on Windows to make the management security with both Windows IoT and Windows 10 so that this runtime is well integrated. In fact, with Windows ML, we now have an inference engine for AI that works with the IoT runtime and will be hardware accelerated. And today I'm really pleased to announce that we're going to open source the Azure IoT Edge so that developers can extend it and contribute to it and take it to all the places that it's needed in. We already have significant momentum. Customers such as Starbucks, Ecolab, Schneider Electric, Rockwell Automation, many customers, and over 230 partners who have certified over 1,000 devices already for the Azure IoT Edge. And today, I'm really thrilled to announce a new partnership with Qualcomm, who's going to bring a new Qualcomm accelerated camera for scenarios from home security to industrial safety.
Yeah, I did.
And releasing a computer vision toolkit with it. So you can, in fact, run a container that's been trained in the cloud and deployed right on the camera for computer vision. And this is going to be available by end of the year for developers to deploy. I'm also thrilled to announce a partnership with DJI, a leader in civilian drones and aerial imagery. DJI is doing two things. One is they're launching an SDK on Windows 10, so developers building commercial apps for a variety of different vertical industries now will have full access to the drone, both the data as well as the flight plan. So you can imagine what you can do in agriculture, industrial safety. Many of these applications can get written on Windows as the control plane.
Well, they've also got that $25 million partnership for people with disabilities.
Azure IoT Edge right into the drone itself. So again, you can deploy compute AI models that have been trained in the cloud to the edge right on the drone. And to complete the picture, Azure Sphere. This was announced at RSA just last month. It brings together secure silicon design, a secure operating system, as well as a security and a management service all together, so that 9 billion plus microcontrollers that ship each year. I mean, talk about a business opportunity for all developers. 9 billion new compute nodes. And you can think of that as just part of Azure. Same programming model, same tool chain. And so this is what we're building out as one ubiquitous computing fabric. And so I wanted to roll the video of Azure Sphere, and then I want to have Sam George from our Azure IoT team come up and show you some of this stuff in action. Sam?
Okay, so I mean, they're really pushing that IoT edge, and that absolutely makes sense because it's a complete platform. It's hardware, it's software, it's service, and it actually does look pretty secure. I mean, from what they've released so far, it is a good way to run IoT.
It's also a good way to make inroads into both international markets, as you and I have noticed, as you've talked about before. Right. I think as American reporters and people who cover this, it can be difficult for us to understand that a lot of time, money, and attention will be shifting out of the country in the 21st century economy. What I think they're also doing is they're making a play to become bog standard for things like augmented reality, IoT, and commercial tech. Early on, the same way that they colonized and then the desktop when it came to office work.
Well, I mean,
they're
really making
smart,
a play for $6 billion in just IoT security by the end of 2018, and they can definitely make inroads with that intelligent edge. This is more worldwide, something in the middle of a oil field. You've got Stack and Azure. Yeah.
Oil fields, shipping, logistics, agriculture, anything that involves a rising amount of data tracking and transparency. They're hoping to be right there, I think.
And we've got Sam George from Microsoft to talk about IoT.
It's never been easier to benefit from IoT. And those benefits include eliminating downtime, reducing environmental impact, and delivering breakthrough product innovations. Today, Rockwell Automation is delivering industrial automation solutions across infrastructure, manufacturing, power generation, and so much more. They've been using Azure IoT already to connect to the equipment that powers these industries and using Azure services to predict the maintenance needs and eliminate downtime for them. So let's look into the future at some of Azure's new intelligent edge capabilities that Rockwell Automation will be using to detect visual defects and anomalies automatically. Now, for context, as devices and sensors generate more and more data, such as video data, it's more practical to deliver compute and AI right down to the devices themselves. Now, this is where Azure IoT Edge comes in. Azure IoT Edge enables Azure services as well as your own code to escape the cloud and be deployed directly down onto devices and managed remotely, all on devices smaller than a Raspberry Pi or as large and capable as the solution calls for. To see this in action, let's take a look at a Rockwell Automation operational dashboard. Now, in this dashboard, I have two alerts. One is inside the building, and the other is up on the roof. Let's take a look at the one inside the building first. And when I click on it, I see the image of an anomaly that was captured. Now, this anomaly was detected by a camera produced by Qualcomm in partnership with Microsoft. It has rich compute and AI capabilities, and it runs Azure IoT Edge. Now, to power this, we've used Azure Machine Learning to build an AI model and packaged it up in a Docker container and then deployed it to this camera. Because we're using this technique, we can deploy it to millions of these in minutes. Through various talks this week, you're going to see us show you exactly how easy it is for you to do the same thing. Now, with Azure IoT Edge and our AI model running locally on this camera, it means Rockwell doesn't have to send all of that video to the cloud. Instead, they can simply send alerts. It also means they don't have to manually inspect all those pipes. Now, our AI model detected a stress fracture, and if left untreated, it can be very dangerous. So I'm going to create a ticket in Dynamics 365 to dispatch a technician. Great. So back on our dashboard, the second alert is a pressure drop in a pipe up on the roof. Now, environments like this can be dangerous to technicians and very costly to organizations to deploy them. So this really calls for a solution with a new perspective. DJI is the world's leader in drone technology.
He kind of just glossed over how the camera detected a stress fracture.
Highly configurable industrial platforms capable of doing jobs that are dull, dirty, or just dangerous. And like us, they give people the tools they need to bring their innovations to life.
Software components.
Microsoft is partnering
one
with
of the
DJI
things that I think is
to bring
be
Azure
up to
IoT
the audience
Edge
to ask.
right
There
to
are
their
two different
drones.
sets of questions. The first is, how do I sell this to people? And the second is, what jobs are gained or lost from this?
Can develop AI models and deploy them to their drones.
Is there systematically
It also means I can take that same AI model that went to the Qualcomm camera and deliver it to the DJI drone.
As to linemen, not anymore.
Now, this incredible drone is a DJI M210 RTK, and it's capable of running Azure IoT Edge right on board. This smaller drone is a DJI Mavic Air, and it's perfect for learning the principles of flight and for developing and testing your AI models. Now, it's all well and good to talk about drones, but I bet you'd like to see me fly one, and I would love to. But unfortunately, in a room like this, you need a commercial drone pilot license to do that, and they're incredibly hard to get. So for that, we're going to welcome Francisco from DJI out to the stage to fly for us. Come on out.
They've bet heavily on the drone demo, so now they've got a rep from DJI.
Francisco is going to be flying the DJI Mavic Air over the pipes that you see here, which represent the ones 150 feet up on the roof. And the Mavic Air is going to be streaming video back to the laptop here, which is running Azure IoT Edge as well as our AI model, all packaged up in a great UWP app. And when it sees the anomaly,
you've got UWP on your bingo card. Take a drink.
That you saw with the Qualcomm camera. All right, let's check it out.
Okay. What? Wait, it
now,
actually...
As you can see, we're detecting that anomaly in real time. For the first time ever, we're able to stream video back from that drone to this laptop running IoT Edge and our AI model, which was developed in the cloud.
I mean, that is a pretty big dent, but okay. It was able to detect it, categorize it as an anomaly.
Yeah. It's the use of I saw a similar
as I mentioned, the M200
augmented reality type demo one time with a drone and the ability to inspect solar panels. But this is the first time I've seen actual diagnostics and detection incorporated in it. That's a tiny drone. How are they going to keep birds from going after it?
Now, that anomaly was pretty easy to see, but in the real world, there's hundreds of pipes over thousands of miles. So solutions like this will save Rockwell significant time and expense. Now, if you're eager to try this out, DJI is offering an early release of the Windows SDK exclusively to Build attendees. Stop by their booth, check it out, and try it for yourself. Now, you've just seen two instances of the intelligent edge in action, deploying the same AI model to both the Qualcomm camera as well as the DJI drone. And the best part is, as I find new defects in my model and retrain it, I can deploy that out in minutes to millions of devices, immediately making the intelligent edge even more intelligent.
There's a problem with that. One of the biggest benefits he touted was that with the intelligent edge, you only send back alerts. Well, how do you find the things you missed if you're only sending back the alerts?
That's fantastic to see.
That's a great question. I wonder how they're going to define the different data sets and teach the AI.
Technology,
Satya's back up, and let's find out more about AI.
in action in the drone. So let's just unpack that more. You know, when it comes to AI breakthroughs, Microsoft has had many. If you look at just 2016, that was when the first time we had the 152-layer ResNet that achieved human parity in object recognition. We then went on to achieve human parity on speech recognition using the switchboard dataset. We now have the joint leadership on the Stanford Q&A dataset when it comes to machine reading and comprehension, which was just in January of 2018. And then in March of 2018, we achieved human parity around machine translation. If you look, you even see the pace with which these breakthroughs are coming. You know, but the one thing that I think about as a platform company, as a tools company, is, in some sense, who cares about breakthroughs we achieve? What matters is, can we translate these into frameworks, tools, and services and put them in your hands as developers so that you can take AI and have impact in every industry, in every application. To us, that's what's important. We truly are committed to, in some sense, commoditizing AI. We have to go from sort of talking about AI being in the hands of a few companies to being in a place where AI is everywhere. It's in the hands of every developer and every organization. That's the next real shift. And that requires us to be able to scale, first of all, AI across both the cloud and the edge. We need to have the most productive tool chain to be able to create AI and customize AI. And then you need openness when it comes to frameworks and infrastructure. They can't be locked in. And that's what we're working on. In fact, Azure Cognitive Services, you know, in the last 3 years have gone from, again, early releases to full-fledged services. We have the most number of cognitive services, 35 plus services that are available to developers today, spanning speech, vision, language, machine translation.
Now would be a good time for a callback to the bias in language reference you made earlier.
In other words, you can bring your data, your label data, and use it to customize the models and then deploy the models where you need it inside your applications. And there are many, many customers, and this applies across vision, speech, and language, and we have many customers already doing this. In fact, Coca-Cola used computer vision in a very innovative marketing program. BMW is building their own personal assistant for their car that's branded by them. Twitter uses our machine translation to be able to translate every tweet. KPMG uses, in fact, speech for compliance. NBA uses semantic search. RIT, it's a fantastic case study of using machine translation and speech recognition to make classrooms inclusive. They customize it by teaching these systems the specific subjects. I mean, think about what it can do for an inclusive classroom. But these cognitive services are also ushering in many AI-enabled devices. In fact, Huawei has built a broad range of devices. Their Mate 10 includes our machine translation and does even offline translation using their NPU on board. Xiaomi worked with another travel company, Samjoy, and brought a new device, which is so phenomenal because what it does is it uses speech recognition and machine translation to give every Chinese traveler a far-field device to be able to communicate with anyone else without the language barrier. It's pretty amazing to see this device in action without the awkwardness of a phone that you're trying to thrust in front of someone.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that Microsoft Translate is a phenomenal
app. So in order to really democratize
really
the creation of more of these types of AI-powered, AI-enabled devices,
shifting and increasing
I'm really
amount of
thrilled
prioritization
to announce
outside the
a
US
speech device SDK, as well as reference kits that Rubo, which is one of our OEM partners and ODM partners out of China, has built. This is a microarray speaker that you can take and deploy in any device. Many industrial applications now get built by recognizing ambient noise and signatures. And so these are devices that can be built by developers for even low volume scenarios in the enterprise market, as well as consumer applications. And talking about these AI devices, Kinect, when we first launched it in 2010, was a speech-first, gaze-first, vision-first device. It was used in gaming, and then later on it came to the PC, and it was used in many applications.
Interesting.
Medical.
Okay. So where are you going with this, Satya?
Industrial, robotics, education. And in fact, I remember distinctly going to a children's hospital in Chile and seeing it used for remote physical therapy. And so we've been inspired by what developers have done. And since Kinect, we've made a tremendous amount of progress when it comes to some of the foundational technologies in HoloLens. And so we're taking those advances and packaging them up as Project Kinect for Azure.
Oh,
and this Project Kinect for Azure is going to have some of the best spatial understanding.
Interesting. So this becomes part of their intelligent edge?
Skeletal tracking.
It makes sense, though, because one of the things that people have brought up with the IoT is the incredible amount of data that's going to be generated, and hooking that right into Azure and giving you access to that kind of cloud-based processing power.
And also have
it seems like a natural fit.
I think his prompter has crashed.
And so this
just like, wait, what?
set of sensors we expect to be fully integrated into many different applications, both on the consumer side as well as the industrial side.
Mm-hmm. I think this is where you're going to have to actually pay a lot of attention to Microsoft over the next few years, are the industrial inroads they're going to make with this type of stuff.
Yeah, no, they're really going to that market hard.
As the new applications. Yeah. Every company will build branded agents. This is pretty critical because if these are the new apps, you need to be able to brand them, especially the consumer-facing ones. It's not sufficient to just build skills for others' agents, but you need to be able to have your own agent that can directly talk to customers. And every agent should be able to converse across multiple personal digital assistants. Right? And we now see a tremendous amount of momentum with all of these technologies. In just 2 years, we've seen many customers build both customer-facing, employee-facing bots for a variety of different use cases. Let's just roll a video to show you what customers are doing with bots.
Now, they did a big bet last year on bots are the new apps. And that didn't really...
Wait, was it last year or was it a couple of years ago? Because I remember bots being kind of big in 2016. Yeah. It was Facebook and Google also had something on intelligent assistants and bots that year too.
Yeah. So this is slightly different. This is AI is the new apps, but okay.
Yeah. So Google I/O starts tomorrow, and although I will be covering Red Hat because apparently this is the week everyone has their conference, I'm super curious to go back later and check the Google I/O coverage and see how many of the same notes they're going to be hitting too. I wonder if this is the year where we hear a whole lot about AI.
Well, yeah, you have to do AI, you have to do security and privacy, and at some point you have to do an edge layer. All right, here we go. We're continuing it. Back to Satya.
At this conference, we're launching 100+ new features for the bot framework so that you can continue to build these conversational interfaces and give them more of the customization. So for example, you can have a custom wake word, you can give it custom speech, you can even give it custom personality, take some of the FAQs and turn them into Q&As, and then take the corpus of data you have in terms of conversations and use that as labeled data to have a full dialogue system. So amazing stuff for you to be able to build much more sophisticated conversational applications. We also have
how much more
the capability
of this is going to be improved bot conversations and how much it's going to be more effectively training users to get utility out of these conversations.
I'm surprised they're not really highlighting their advancements in natural language processing because they've done a great job with that last year.
Yeah. You want to have the maximum reach.
I think they wanted a developer conference too.
So that means you should be able to publish it in Cortana, you should be able to publish it in Skype, in Facebook, and we have now 16+ channels. By just simply registering the channel, tagging the intents, you can have your conversational interface show up everywhere. So this is, I think, one of the key concepts that we want to make sure we get across is the separation of how you build the conversational dialogue system and the tool chain you need, the sophistication of that tool chain, so that you can build a branded asset from where all it shows up. They don't need to be coupled. And that's what we're enabling. When it comes to tools and frameworks, it starts with having the best data estate. And Azure, you'll hear from Scott later about our data estate. Last year, we started talking about Cosmos DB. It's one of the fastest growing databases today. To what we have done with SQL and our data warehouse and our data lake, because you now have the ability to bring all your data in its native form and then have a best tool chain for you to be able to prep that data, to iterate on it, to build your models, and then to deploy them where you need it, either using our batch services or our Kubernetes service. So that tool chain is what's going to be very, very critical to be something that gives you that productivity edge. But there's one other thing, which is we want to make sure there's openness in every layer. Just because you like one of the frameworks, in fact, you should be able to choose any framework. You should be able to choose CNTK or TensorFlow or PyTorch or MXNet. Any framework of your choice. Use those frameworks using this tool chain to build your model, and then you want to be able to deploy it on the infrastructure. And even there, we worked with Facebook to create this open neural network exchange, Onyx, which is supported broadly now by all of the frameworks I mentioned, as well as the hardware acceleration from Intel, from Qualcomm, NVIDIA. It's supported the 2 inference engines, Core ML on iOS, as well as Windows ML supported.
This is the framework.
So that means
Keynote.
You have this intermediate representation.
It seems to me he's making a pitch for the ubiquity and ease of deployment here, where he's like, there's no excuse for using our stuff. It works with everything.
Got locked in to one particular neural processing unit. And so we want to open that up. And talking about AI infrastructure, I'm really thrilled to announce the preview of Project Brainwave. Project Brainwave is a distributed real-time AI fabric that today is working with FPGAs from Intel to bring the best-in-class real-time AI, low-latency AI capabilities and inferencing capabilities. It has 5x lower hardware latency than TPU for real-time AI. And this is going to be available in preview for developers. And we're also going to extend it all the way to the edge. We're working with our system partners to take FPGA and make it available wherever Azure is available. And we have many customers who have these high precision and high throughput needs who are working with us. And one such customer is Jabil. And so let's roll the video to show you how they're using FPGA for real-time AI already.
Ooh.
So they want to tout their own efforts in developing hardware for intelligent IoT.
We are more than that. We're a manufacturing solutions provider.
Well, if they're doing both hardware and software, it's locking down the channel, right?
And it's a great approach right now. Rather than, okay, here's a new framework, install it on a Raspberry Pi, they've given us a hardware platform that's actually secure, that they're giving away, basically, everyone who wants to use it.
It's an easy out-of-the-box solution. It's an easy sell to make to people who may be intimidated by the technology. I think one of Microsoft's big competitive advantages in this nascent space is they're a known quantity.
Right.
And it's a lot easier to go to the person who writes the checks and say, look, we already have an existing relationship with this vendor. The solution isn't going to require us to patch in a lot of outside partners. We're not going to have to coordinate with 4 different people to get this done. And I fully expect Microsoft to take that organization, just go with it.
Technology that's shaping this shift, which is multi-sense, multi-device experiences.
Yep, that was.
And Microsoft 365 is the coming together of Windows and Office to build this multi-device, multi-sense experience, service, and platform. And it puts people at the center versus devices at the center. And I think it's easy for us to think about this by looking at what happens and how you interact with Microsoft 365. You may pick up a phone and use Outlook Mobile in the morning. You're in the car, you're joining a Skype meeting because Skype is embedded in the car dashboard. You come to work, you work on a PC, on Word, and you're collaborating with someone from across the country. You're in a meeting where you have a large screen device like the Surface Hub. During a single day, you're using multiple devices. You're at multiple locations, working with multiple people, and interacting using multiple senses. That's the world we already live in. We need an operating system. We need a platform that abstracts the hardware at that level, that creates an app model at that level. Single devices remain important, will remain important, but this meta orchestration is what we need to do. We need to up-level even our concept of what an operating system is. And that's what Microsoft 365 does. And in fact, you can start as a developer, right, at least in the case of Windows, where a lot of our applications are, which is on the desktop, on your laptop. With Fluent, you can modernize for the mouse and keyboard a Win32 app, a WPF app, a Universal app. Every one of these applications can be modernized using Fluent. Of course, applications are not just rectangular windows anymore. You can add senses, so you can add ink, you can add speech, both far field and near field. This holiday season, you're going to have every PC, just like how they had touch, going to have a lot more of near field and far field with wake words or wake on voice capable devices out there. You can have mixed reality, you can have gaze, so you can add application richness with multiple senses. But also, the applications themselves are going to be multi-device. In fact, at this conference, you're going to see how we're taking the Windows shell and using essentially the same set of APIs in Microsoft Graph to extend the shell. Timeline, which Joe will talk more about tomorrow, allows you to go from the phone to the PC and back and complete your tasks as one continuous stream. In fact, I think of Timeline allowing me to treat the phone as a second screen to the PC. And we're also introducing new capabilities for the phone. This is your ability to, in fact, take the phone and treat the PC as a second screen. So these are multi-device extensions of the shell.
So I want to call that out where he's talking about the PC as a extension of the phone, because it seems to me that what he's recognizing or trying to prep developers for is the idea that we have a couple generations, one that's in school, one that's already in the workforce, where their primary computing mode is
not
mobile.
A desktop or laptop anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they might have a tablet if they're really fussy about things, but the phone is an augmented reality device they have permanently attached to their hand, and they expect to be able to compute from it.
Is showing up as an adaptive card in Outlook, either on a phone or on a PC. You can also have Excel call a cloud function. So you can go to Azure and use Azure functions to write a machine learning or an AI module that gets called by Excel using its cloud function functionality. These are all things that is extensions of M365. Perhaps one of the most quintessential multi-device, multi-sense surface areas is Cortana. Cortana is part of Windows Shell. It's built into Outlook. It's going to be built into Teams. It has these unique capabilities. It has the unique capabilities around scheduling meetings, transcribing meetings, keeping commitments. It saves me every day because it knows the mails I send where I commit to things, and it reminds me of those. And I already talked about how something like the bot framework can be used to build skills for Cortana as well as many other surface areas.
Notice, though, he's not calling her a voice assistant.
There's one other thing that we've been doing with Cortana.
No,
there's
a voice. It's a voice interface for AI. Is
right,
what it is.
That's what they want. That's the new framing.
Yeah.
With other
I think the problem with the word assistant in general is it raises expectations of utility, and the technology is not yet where we need to be, and so it's easy to say, oh, Siri, you're a moron, or Cortana doesn't work, and that's not how the tech companies want us to think of it.
Some single walled garden. And for developers to have access to the maximum number of users. And so we've been working with our friends across the lake at Amazon to really bring Scala and Cortana together to benefit every user and every developer out there. And to really show you this, I wanted to introduce up on stage Megan Saunders from Microsoft and Tom Taylor from Scala.
There we go. Yeah. Let's get some partnerships going.
Does she have on the leather jacket? That seems to be the power move for most people in tech keynotes, is the leather jacket.
In the real life, I go to the people I trust for advice. I talk to my mom about my teenagers, which is pretty often now. I talk to Joe B about my hair. And in the ambient world, we believe that assistants will work together each and every day to help us.
Okay, I want to call out the phrase ambient world here, because this is another way for them to try to market the idea of pervasive, ubiquitous computing that's led with a voice interface.
We believe voice will make customers' lives easier at home, at work, and everywhere in between. We share a vision that there'll be many successful intelligent agents working together to provide customers a more helpful experience. Now, we all know it's early days, but I'm very excited to show the progress, so let's do it.
Me too. Okay, you go to your office, and I'm going to go to my house.
Okay.
Now, at my house, we have an
for doing
Echo
the live
in
demos.
the kitchen. But it's Cortana that manages my schedule and my email. And to get my day started, coffee is very important, and I like milk. But with ravenous teenagers, we are often out. Add milk to my shopping list.
I've added milk to your shopping list.
Open Cortana.
Cortana here. How can I help?
How's my day?
I'll take a look. I see 2 events for today. First up, at 5:30 p.m., celebration with Tom at Harvest Vine. And then, at 8 p.m., pick up Maddie from soccer. What can I do for you?
Send an email to Tom Taylor saying, I'll see you tonight.
Sure. I'll email Tom Taylor. I'll see you tonight. Ready to send it?
Yes.
Great. I've sent it. How can I help?
I'm done.
Very cool.
Later.
Oh.
I love being able to talk to both Cortana and Stella on my PC. Let me show you how they help me through my day. Oh, I see I have an email from Megan about dinner tonight.
The thing I always want to see in these demos is how this is going to work with multiple people in a household.
Where is Harvest Vine?
Or multiple people in a workspace.
Yeah.
Harvest Vine is about 2 miles away at 2701 East Madison in Seattle.
Better get going. Open Stella.
Hi there. This is Stella. How can I help?
Get me a ride to Harvest Vine.
There is an Uber X 2 minutes away from your address. Should I order it?
Yes, please.
Okay, requesting your ride. This may take a few moments. Would you like to continue?
Yes.
Okay, your Uber driver, Sarah, is arriving. Look for a Toyota Camry.
Now, in this demo,
What's next?
Stella is
Turn off the
responding
lights,
much
please.
more quickly than Cortana. I'm just saying.
What else can I help you with?
I'm glad that they're including that as
What
opposed
do
to
you
doing a can
think
demo.
about Cortana?
There we go.
I like Cortana. We both have experience with light rings, although hers is more of a halo. Is there anything else?
Thanks, that's it.
So this has been a demo of Cortana
Just
as
a few
skill.
of the things that Cortana helped me do throughout my day. Well, Megan, it's really been great to be here with you today. I can't wait to see what customers do.
Yes, we're really excited about this first step in a longer journey as intelligent friends, both in the real and the ambient worlds. Now, we're committed to meeting customers wherever they are on whatever device is most convenient for them. Now, this experience is still in a limited beta, but you can go to this website to be notified when we go live. Now, for all of you developers out there, building skills for Cortana and Scala is going to enable access to more people across more devices, and we can't wait to see what you will build. Thank you.
Props to Build. They always have programmers out there who will actually give you code snippets, and they'll show you how they do it in real time.
Thank you so much, Megan and Tom.
It is a real developer conference.
So that shows you how every Windows developer, every Office developer going forward, across all of these experience scaffoldings, from Cortana to Teams to Outlook to Timeline to Windows, can become an M365 developer.
The two questions I'm always going to have until they're answered are, one, how are you going to build this out so that multiple people can use the same voice interface in the same space? And two, how are you going to make it so that you can use this in a workplace environment without people going crazy by having Alexa or Cortana constantly chattering while they're trying to work?
That you can use.
What sort of tools are they offering for that?
This data is owned by users and organizations. And they give explicit consent to developers. to be able to use that data, extend that data. That means your applications can be part of the graph. So this is not a closed graph, it's an extensible graph so that we can collectively add more to our customers with these cross-device experiences, these multi-sense applications. This explicit representation of activity is a massive unlock to the richness of the applications that we build. And already many developers are taking advantage of it, from Adobe to GitHub to HubSpot to Sage to Trello to Zendesk. These are all graph developers. And so we expect this list to grow and this conference to help you get a better handle on the types of applications you can build that cross devices and cross senses. But so far, the representation has had data that is personal, that is organizational, as well as the web. But it's all been digital. In other words, it's digital artifacts that have been schematized. We want to go to the next step. We want to be able to take the real world, spatial data, hospital, factory, homes, offices.
I think one of the things they're doing here, which is very smart, is how they're putting different frames of reference around the different types of data, like your data, organizational data, web data, real-world data.
Right. And that's why it was important that they had Connect as an end device.
Yeah, I also think that's why they started emphasizing privacy early on too, is by pointing out that your data can help feed your experience, but you're still going to have some measure of privacy too.
A set of SaaS applications is part of Microsoft 365, which use HoloLens to be able to bring the spatial data into the Microsoft Graph. And to show you both these advances in Microsoft 365 for first-line work and these new SaaS applications, and then have other colleagues join her to show all of Microsoft 365, please help me welcome Lorraine Bardeen.
Thank you, Satya.
This is the HoloLens portion, I guess.
All right. Ooh, exciting.
We're going to show how Microsoft 365, Azure, and the Microsoft Graph can bring the power of computing into the real world. So first, I'm going to talk about industry and about first-line workers. And then we're going to switch gears and talk about the future of meetings and knowledge workers. So first-line workers in any company, they're the first to the customer, and they're the first to the problem. We see a huge untapped potential to empower those 2
really started doubling down on their message to first-line workers and improving their computing experience. So it's, once again, it's one of those total integrations where they're hoping to grab the back office, the front office, and the first line.
And you know, this opens up a huge new business opportunity for you as well, to bring your existing skills to a new customer base. So let's start by talking about what we've learned. In the past couple of years since we started shipping HoloLens, my team has been paying really close attention. What are those workflows that cut across first-line industries? We've collaborated with hundreds of customers, and we've identified that those highest value workflows are remote assistance, space planning, training and development, and product-focused collaboration, and real-time access to IoT and spatial data. So let's take a look at the first 2 of those high-value workflows, remote assistance and space planning, through the eyes of our customer, ZF Manufacturing. Let's roll that video.
Okay, I'm getting excited. This is the stuff I actually wanted to see. I like frameworks and overviews, but I want to see how this technology is actually going to be used in the industrial environment.
We want to be the technology leader for automotive support autonomous driving. If I want that, I can not only have the best product, I also have to have the best processes. And I have to have the best technology to support our processes.
The passion is about bringing technology that adds value. And not just value to the business process, but value to the people. Because without the people out there on the shop floor, we're nothing.
I'm Matthias Stütz. I try to solve problems that the machines have, that they have less downtime, that we have a higher technical availability. Because if the machines are not running, we're not producing parts, so we don't make money.
I'm Lee Payton. I'm a planning engineer here at FTG. I receive layouts for new equipment to come into the plant and make adjustments and then place those pieces of equipment in the plant drawing. A lot of times I have to take screenshots at specific angles so that I can get exactly what they want to see, and I have to make adjustments and really have to fill in the blanks with an explanation. And I have a difficult time trying to produce.
So they're building the case for using something like a spatially aware camera here.
99% of our equipment comes from Germany and Switzerland. Either they can help us over the phone or they have to fly in. So
they're also building a geographical component where augmented reality will eliminate that.
Speaking to someone who has the same machine in Germany and has 10 more years of experience with it, you can figure out problems way more faster.
I saw items that I've spent hours on building come into a real-life environment, and I was able to manipulate those and change those to reflect the environment that they're in. That was a great planning tool.
When I can do what I love the most, and technology helps me with that, I don't feel like I'm wasting my time.
I'm a person of very few words. I communicate best through my creative endeavors, so that's the tool that I prefer to use, and hopefully it becomes one of the best tools that I have.
Okay, well, we've seen presentations like that before, so now give me the tools
you can see
I'm actually going to build that
bringing
with.
those mixed reality capabilities into their workflows, it improved the quality and the speed and the outcomes for both Lee and Matthias. And this is technology that connects them to other people through their work. So my team's been hard at work, and today we are incredibly excited to announce 2 new mixed reality business applications, Microsoft Remote Assist and Microsoft Layout. And these are joining the Microsoft 365 family and available for public preview starting May 22nd.
Ooh.
With Microsoft Remote Assist,
thank you.
First-line workers can bring an expert right where they need them, and they can share what they're seeing. This is really important because often they don't have the help they need on site. They can collaborate to solve problems faster using heads-up, hands-free, video calling, image sharing, and mixed reality annotations. And the IT administrators, they can count on secure access, secure communications through Microsoft Teams. And then those experts, they don't have to head out into the field or hop on a plane to solve problems. This really expedites their troubleshooting, and it eliminates a ton of travel costs.
Okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now, with Microsoft Layout, teams can experience designs at real-world context. They can share and edit those designs in real time, and they can make better decisions faster. There are a lot of ways to design spaces right now, but it's so hard to visualize them in the real world at size, scale, and context, which means that decisions end up taking a lot longer than they should, and often costly rework is needed. But with Microsoft Layout, teams can make decisions that used to take weeks or months. They can often make them in just days. So you remember those workflows I was talking about at the beginning?
Pitches we're going to see for using these are not the it's cool pitch, which frankly is the most compelling reason for me, but it's going to reduce travel time and it's going to reduce travel costs. So you could probably get a new facility online much more quickly and much more cheaply than you can right now. Again, this is a big international pitch. It's probably going to land really effectively with companies that are either outside the US or looking to expand their business outside the US.
First-person point of view, which means that you have access to just rich, new data and inputs. And then when you design for IoT, right, you're coding against the real world. And that's more rich, new data. And we believe it's the combination of these 2 things that's going to increase the value of your applications tremendously. Because with Azure IoT Edge, with connections to the Microsoft Graph, and with capabilities like Bot Framework, these world-sensing devices, they contribute as members of the team, and they're integrated with existing workflows. Let's take a look at this in action at one of ThyssenKrupp Aerospace's factories. Let's roll that video.
At ThyssenKrupp Aerospace, we partner with the world's leading aerospace companies to simplify their supply chain management. We have a complex flow of materials in our factory to keep production running smoothly.
Our top priority is keeping people safe and making sure they have access to all the tools and information they need to make better decisions quickly.
Microsoft's mixed reality tools are helping us get there. As we take on new projects, we need to optimize our workflows. With Microsoft Layout, we're able to make design changes in our actual factory space with 3D holograms.
Once we have an optimized workflow, we use spatial analytics to help drive quality improvements. We're running 24/7 on most saws, so it's expensive to take one offline.
Spatial analytics. Now that I like, especially if it's resource aware.
The right time to replace a saw blade, balancing quality with the bottom line.
Integration with Teams and Cortana allows our workers to make quick, in-context decisions that speed up production.
With Microsoft's mixed reality tools, we're able to work faster, safer, and at a higher quality than ever before.
What they're not mentioning here is whether or not they're going to have analytics that can go through all of the data that's being tracked and help you optimize your business. I wonder if that's just not ready this year, or
I mean, if you can give me a tool that can tell me, hey, you've used up most of this material, or you should move this machine next to this machine for more efficiency, that's exciting.
A workplace safety scenario in a factory. So it's only a year later, and ThyssenKrupp is using Azure IoT Edge, Microsoft Graph, Teams, and Cortana assembled into a workflow that's improving workplace safety and efficiency in their factory. These world-sensing devices, they can offload work so that the first-line workers can focus on their most important work, and they also provide their company with its own spatial data in a standardized format, so it can just be pulled right into existing workflows. So these three things that we talked about today, we're launching these mixed reality applications, and this is, in large part, it's contributing to a big audience expansion to those 2 billion first-line workers. It's a new set of customer needs and a new business opportunity for all of you. And we're also making available this spatial and IoT data, both to first-line workers and to their companies. Now, my team, we work to integrate cloud and edge and mixed reality technologies into products. What we're doing is we're breaking ground so that you all can invent and get to market even faster. And we just love being on this journey with all of you. So let's switch gears now and let's take a look at the future of modern meetings. And for that, I'd like to invite out on stage Rana.
Okay, so is this some sort of telepresence segment?
A key component of building a modern workplace is creating tight connections between the people you work with, the content you create, and especially the conversations and meetings you share. So today we're going to show you some conceptual scenarios for how you can create those connections with intelligent devices and services that understand both our physical world and our digital world. Let's start with something we're all familiar with, meetings. Set up a meeting right now with the Smart Building team to discuss the new project proposal we're creating.
Sure thing. You are all free now. Where do you want to meet?
Find me a conference room with a Surface Hub.
Okay, Teams Screen Room is available now too. Want me to book it?
Yes, please.
That's the scheduling part.
Great.
What I'd like to see is what happens if her criteria aren't quite met. For example, if Cortana says, well, the Surface Hub room is available at X time, but you're missing 2 people.
Right.
Office meeting
Want to change a parameter?
This one's different. On the desk, we have a prototype device
things don't line up.
built on similar technologies to the ones we showed you earlier. It picks up both audio and video that you could pair with AI services and Microsoft 365 to help with key tasks like identification, voice transcription, and even real-time translation.
Welcome, Jamal. Hello, Dave.
The AI services even identify Dave and Jamal as expected meeting attendees. I'm going to go join them.
Good morning, Rana.
Okay.
Would you like to start the meeting?
Yes, please. I know Katie and Julia are coming from another meeting, so let's go ahead and get started. Dave, what's the latest with the smart building pilot?
I've already done some preliminary analysis on the data.
Real-time transcription.
I'm finding some high-temperature outliers. We should discuss it later in the meeting.
Okay, sounds great.
Dave, do you know if we'll have enough of the Yanzi multi-sensors to update the showcase floor?
Actually, I have some concerns about the location of those sensors.
What I do like is how we're also seeing different accents, because this is a nice subtle way to showcase how they can pick up different accents and quickly transcribe them.
And technical words, too.
Okay, that's good to know.
Nice.
I'll follow up with my team and post an update to the channel after the meeting.
And I'll follow up and send Yanzi an email about those showcase sensors.
Okay, that sounds great.
Now, take a look at the transcript
So it knew
behind
follow-up means add it to a note, like an action
Even though
item.
we were all speaking over each other and the sound environment here is actually pretty challenging, the AI services, coupled with the audio and video signals from the device, could still accurately identify who was speaking and when. You'll also notice that it picked up our meeting items and listed them on the right. And the voice recognition model has been trained over time to understand our team's unique communication style and recognizes our speech
I'd love to
patterns
see
even
the training
when we're
protocol and if they have any best practices around it yet, or if they have tools that help you train it more quickly.
But it helps remote participants have a more active meeting experience. Our remote teammate in China can see and hear a translation of this meeting. In fact, we can support multiple simultaneous translations. Hey, Katie. Hey, Julia.
Hey.
With Microsoft Teams, we can continue this conversation right within the context of the work we're creating together and the business apps we use to stay on top of our project. I can even access great third-party apps like Trello and GitHub. But now Cortana is in this workspace with me, so she can help me stay connected across all my experiences. As you can see here, Cortana has detected that we need to find a time to meet. Instead of me struggling to find time that works for everyone's calendar, Cortana will automatically offer up a few options based on our mutual availability. She'll even carry the context of our conversation forward to the meeting details.
See, this is actually a Cortana
And just
killer
like that,
feature
our meeting is
that they
scheduled.
never really push
But
enough.
Cortana also understands the files we're working with, can detect that I want to share the Q2 sales forecast, and will bring the most relevant documents straight into this conversation with my team so I can share it in just a matter of seconds.
Nice. Hey, even though I came in late, I love that I can catch up and identify everyone in the room. I'm deaf, and I work with a sign language interpreter. The transcript doesn't eliminate the need for my interpreter, but it lets me give my full attention without having to worry about note-taking. This makes it a lot easier for me to bring my engineering knowledge to the table
No, props,
and participate
Microsoft. This
in the
is
discussion.
incredibly impressive.
I love getting the meeting notes at the end, too. Hey, we need to get started on the smart buildings
One of the
proposal.
biggest concerns I have about voice as an interface or interface that's motion-driven is how it can possibly exclude differently abled populations. And I like that Microsoft is addressing this very directly right now.
Yeah, different accents, a speech impediment, different languages.
I mean, I feel like they still haven't really gone to the wall and shown us how a group of Scotsmen will be transcribed, but that's coming.
I can stay focused, ask for what I need, and it just shows up. As I'm working on my document, I can add a simple reminder as a placeholder. Or say, I want to get a customer quote from my colleague, Patty. So what I'll do is I'll @mention Patty and ask her to please provide that great customer quote. Now in the past, I'd have to switch from Word to Outlook and run the risk of getting sucked back into my inbox. But now, Patty's quote will show up in the document exactly where I need it. And what's great is I can keep working. So let's do that.
That could be kind of dangerous if Patty is a
I want to
joker.
provide some more information
Yeah.
about the Yanzi smart building sensors. So
Well,
what
I
I'll do
think this comes back
is
to how people are going to be trained to use the technology the same way the technology is learning from people. I think just as we all learned how to write to a keyboard that had, copy, paste, and cutting in it, we're going to learn how to interface with a voice, with a voice interface in ways that change how we converse.
Saw my intent from the to-do item, and then suggested the information I needed using AI. And in case you didn't notice, Patty's information showed up right as I was doing it. The graph becomes richer the more we use this service, and will better understand our intent. In the future, developers will be able to connect and extend their own applications and data sources to the graph and have that information show up in the document exactly where you need it.
Great. Thanks for that update, Jamal.
Anytime.
Katie, what's the latest with the common area designs?
I've been texting with James. Let me take a look. As an engineer, I spend a huge amount of time in front of my PC, but I'm also getting non-stop text messages and alerts on my phone. On average, we open our phones more than 100 times per day. But we think we can do better.
That seems a little low.
With an Android phone and upcoming version of Windows 10. Let me show you 2 simple examples. As you can see, I'm getting SMS messages from my phone right here on my PC. I love being able to respond without having to pick up my phone and unlock it. It's much easier to type messages on my PC. I can also drag pictures from my desktop.
This is all within Teams, yes?
Not only that, when I get a picture from James, I can use it right away.
Based on the
just by dragging
interface
and
I'm
dropping
seeing
it
here.
into PowerPoint. Let's see how this sensor would look in our common rooms.
So one of the things that I know some other platforms are doing, and I thought Microsoft was moving towards this too, is the idea that you could just sort of open up an app's functionality with another app. For example, if you were in Outlook, you could click on an attached spreadsheet and boom, edit it in.
Right.
The idea was you didn't have to keep switching back and forth. So I'm a little curious as to what we're seeing now.
Great.
Because that seems to be a slight deviation from that model that people are pushing.
Of course. Let me bring up the latest data from Power BI.
Great.
Touch, here we go.
This is the last 24 hours of temperature sensor data. And I can see that most of the sensors are reporting normal values. But I've got these 3 high temperature outliers. Let me reorganize the data by room type. When I do that, I can see that most of the high values are coming from focus rooms.
But we looked into that, didn't we? We didn't find any equipment in the focus rooms that would cause a temperature spike.
Yeah.
Right. But let me reorganize the data spatially because I found something interesting.
Okay.
These are the actual 3-dimensional positions of the sensors with the building plan. But let me add a 3D map layer from Bing for additional context.
Okay. They're bringing out all the candy now.
Now, I think the best way to look at spatial data is using my HoloLens. So I'm going to switch devices. Now, I'm going to connect my device to the screen. And share my view. Now, let's take the hologram that I'm looking at and place it directly onto the meeting room table.
For the people who are listening, he basically just looked at the screen, did a little pinch,
get a sense of what I am
and
seeing
it synced the
without
device
having
with
us all
the
wear
hub.
HoloLenses. Wow. Now, I can clearly see that the 3 sensors giving us a problem are vertically aligned with one another. Just put it back.
It's fighting him.
I've also asked my colleague Tal to join the meeting. Hey, Tal. Now, I can see Tal's avatar looking around the data, just as if she was in the room with us.
Oh, wow.
Tal, have you got any insight as to why these 3 sensors that are in a vertical stack might be giving us an issue?
Dave, there's a hot air duct running from the cafeteria kitchen on the ground floor up to the roof. There were some changes in the kitchen recently. We may be way over spec thermally.
Got it. Maybe we should change the sensor placement for more consistent readings.
It's a good idea.
That's great. I'll follow up with the building
That's
manager
a cool
to check
demo.
both the hot air duct and the sensor position. Data visualization is a powerful tool for both finding and sharing insights in data, especially when we can collaborate with multiple people across multiple devices.
So you want to know what you can do with all the data points you're gathering
Using
with their
AI
intelligent edge?
in the
That's
cloud.
it.
They just showed you.
They just showed you.
Has now been neatly captured as a searchable transcript on the left.
I now have
And a
so many
summary of all of our
questions
meeting
about
items have automatically
how
been
they're
created
building out
for
the
us
interface for
on the
data
right.
visualization, what the visual conventions are going to be, how easily you can edit, how that translates back into things like spreadsheets, databases.
Thanks, team.
This is
Today
seriously
we've shown you our vision for
chewy
the
stuff. I
future
love
of
it.
modern work and how we can leverage the power of AI to connect experiences across our physical and digital worlds. With a range of intelligent devices and services, we can now understand the spoken and unspoken nuance of meetings, even when we're not in the room. Carry those insights into our broader team experiences and create opportunities for anyone to collaborate in more immersive ways. Thank you.
Okay, that was actually impressive. I mean, a lot of that was very finely tuned demo, but
It's a little blue sky right now,
Yeah.
but it shows the potential for this technology. And I bet people are going to be thinking about how they can apply it to their own work models.
This platform shift to the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge is pretty limitless. You saw that with Microsoft Azure and Microsoft 365. I mean, just 2 data points, that 9 billion microcontrollers are now compute endpoints, 2 billion plus people who are first-line workers are addressable with these scenarios with Microsoft 365. Just think about that as the base for which we want to innovate, build applications. Now, in fact, this very shift is even shaping the 2 other platforms, Microsoft Gaming and Dynamics 365. At GDC, we talked about how we're innovating across the console, PC, mobile, as well as with PlayFab on the cloud. And you'll see us talk more at E3 about where we are taking gaming. We're very, very excited about that opportunity. With Dynamics, in fact, the spring release we just recently launched, we also launched this very powerful platform, the Power Platform, Power BI, Flow, Power Apps, which acts as the extensibility framework for Microsoft Graph, extensibility framework for Dynamics, as well as Microsoft 365. And it's embeddable by every SaaS ISV. So we're excited about all these 4 products and platforms co-evolving with one major shift to the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. But when we talk about this limitless opportunity, it's not really about adding more screens or grabbing more screen time.
It's a nice
It's about
engagement
truly
metrics there.
figuring out how to empower more people
Yep. Back
and more
on that empowering
organizations.
and productivity.
That's
at least they're on message.
Yeah. No,
really
this,
what it's all about.
This Microsoft under Satya Nadella has been very,
We have a
very
real
good about putting out clear and
responsibility
unambiguous messaging. And they're
as
very
we
good about
think about the
signaling business
impact of
pivots before they make them.
to ensure that technology is reaching everyone. In the last few years at Microsoft, I've been truly inspired by the passion of people, the developers inside as well as in this community, where we have really taken some of the advances in AI in particular and applied it to accessibility, applied it to help people with disabilities. It's been a personal passion of mine, and it's been a privilege for me, a blessing for me to see that unfold. Every year we have this Hackfest or 1 week, and each time when I see the types of things the developers are capable of doing, the magic they can create with learning tools in OneNote or using Gaze with ALS, it just really helps me see the bigger picture of what technology can do. Let's roll the video.
So this is the sandwich. It's the empowerment / security sandwich. We started with it, and I think we're probably going to end the keynote with it.
I want the exact same information that my hearing friends have.
They do this a lot where they end with the kids, they're the future, the future of technology. This is why we do this.
As opportunities to reach out to everyone.
Soundscape fills in a lot of the mental map as you move.
Approaching intersection.
You can just put it in your pocket and go.
With ALS, you become
These are their different partners.
But we see technology as a way to give
worked with
back
Microsoft's
what ALS
framework so far.
Yes.
And they are doing a lot with disabilities. They've committed $25 million to it. So
They've also, in terms, you and I have talked about Microsoft's messaging. They've been very, very consistent in pointing out that computing is not just confined to able-bodied people who can use a keyboard. And we're seeing that here.
Ajay realized that here was something that could change his life.
Now that I have my phone, I can see exactly what was said.
Again, Microsoft Translator, an amazing app. If you don't have it, go download it right now.
And the accuracy has improved tremendously.
Students can pick any language that they choose to receive the information. It's like we jumped into the future.
Because communication is very important for all of us, and we just want to be together and not feel left out.
Aider les personnes avec autisme à communiquer, il y a des images.
Je parle, je donne une information à Arthur et elle est traduite par l'application El Picto instantanément en pictogramme et après d'une façon orale.
Va t'habiller et te brosser les dents.
On va pouvoir remettre en place une communication qui est plus spontanée. Je crois que ça aide à recréer du lien.
Both my wife and I are totally blind, and we have a 3-year-old son that's in preschool. He can see, but his parents can't. So to be able to know what's going on at his school is everything. The Seeing AI app has the ability to allow me access to the visual world. Artificial intelligence is beginning to have an impact on the lives of people with disabilities, but it's only going to grow. There is still so much out there to be done.
Okay, a bit more blue sky for the developers at Build.
And I'm really pleased to close this keynote by announcing AI for accessibility. This is a grant program that we are creating so that we can give grants to researchers, NGOs, developers, give them support, platform technologies, so that you can bring your ingenuity and passion to help the 1+ billion people in this world who have disabilities. I can't wait to see what you all build. Thank you all so very much, and have a fantastic rest of the build. Thank you.
And that's the end of the Day 1 keynote. Of course, there will be another one tomorrow. That's probably going to go a bit more depth into 365 and such. But, this was an interesting keynote.
Hello.
A lot of that at the beginning was a little fluffy. But then they really got into the meat of things.
Well, they warm up the crowd, and they feel very excited about what they do for a living, and then they tell them how their job is going to change. That's the general structure of your Build keynote.
Now we've got Azure Puppies. I want to know what this is about.
Working with developers over the years, I see the toll that this role takes on our bodies. So these, in 90 seconds or less, these are my top stretching recommendations to keep all of you safe and healthy. This next part is, of course, optional, as is everything, but I do at this time invite you all to stand up just for a moment.
This is new.
Yeah. Well, I think after jokes about Apple watching and how people have to get during Apple's keynotes to stretch because their watch tells them to, why not here?
So standing up as tall as you can.
This
Flip
is a
your
bonus.
arms so the palms face forward. Shoulders can come down just a little bit. Excellent. Spread your fingers as wide as you possibly can. All right, we start with the hands. Bring the hands together, interlace the fingers.
Oh, please find
Push
Paul and Mary Jo.
as hard as you possibly can. Take a really deep breath in. Hold it. And exhale, let it go. Everything down. Perfect. All right, sweep the arms up high overhead. Just for a moment. We might need to negotiate a little space here Take your elbows down to shoulder height.
This is probably the most physical activity some of these people have done in a while.
Amazing.
Just going to throw that out there. And I would include myself with that.
Arms back.
Well, I got to be honest, I've got an Apple Watch, and I have to be honest, I've gotten a lot more mindful about how much time I will spend sitting down or moving around. And I have noticed a difference in my overall comfort levels with frequent movement breaks.
Perfect. Arms down by your sides.
What they don't realize is the people who are not participating don't get the free laptop at the end of the keynote.
So drawing your shoulders up
or a
towards
free
the
puppy.
ears.
I feel like
the puppy, yeah.
Roll them back. Flip your palms again. You see what happens when, yep, perfect. Spread the fingers as wide as you can. And now down. One more time together. Roll up.
You know, they could have done this at the start of the keynote. This actually would have been a fun warm-up.
All right, we'll release the neck, and then we'll be free to go. From here, looking down at your feet, tuck your chin into your chest. Perfect. Hips come forward just a little bit.
This is actually in preparation for tomorrow's keynote. They'll be doing a session of hot yoga right after that
now
one.
Look back towards me. This next part will involve
I went to
curling
the IBM event last month, and they actually did have entire ballrooms in the facility devoted to doing kickboxing workouts or yoga at the end of the day.
Thumbs are pointing back towards you. Draw the arms down by your sides. Back to the neck. Look to your right. Tuck your chin to chest. Now pull your left hand down towards the ground. And then flip the hand so the thumb points behind you. Perfect.
Okay, I know there's going to be a lot of hate on this, but I find this endearing and cute.
I do too. Pull your right hand down towards the ground. Squeeze the hand. Flip it so the thumb goes down. Okay, come back to center. The last thing that I will say, I think the space requirement is a little tricky here, but
they should play Cypress Hill in the song Jump right now. That would be awesome. It would be incredible.
Get like a minute of cardio when everyone just kind of pogoing in place.
Relief that you can do. The best way to do it is actually up here, maybe sideways, right? So pull your arms back, kind of like we did with that shoulder roll. Pull everything back.
This will be remembered as, hey, remember at Build when they told us to poke our neighbors in the eyes?
Raise your hand if you feel a little better. Yes. Okay. Thank you for having me.
You know what? That was fun. Thank you. Thank you, Microsoft. Don't take yourself so seriously.
I will be in the lounge all week. If you have any follow-up questions, please come by and say hi. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Okay, Lisa. So let's go over some of the high points here. Of course, we've got Azure for Students. No cost for the tools. Again, you know, they're playing into that whole, we want to get them while they're young and they'll develop when they get older. They did a huge push for the international reach, and they started it off with the docs.microsoft.com, where it's got all of the documentation for all their tools in pretty much any language they could think of. Two very awkward introductions to segments, which we'll have to go over those later. Ethical AI, and they're sort of hedging their bets. They're saying, look, ethical AI is going to answer a lot of those privacy concerns and a lot of the bias concerns. And then they did an incredibly wonderful demonstration of the real-time presence of IoT devices, one with the DJI drone and one with that meeting room. So, I mean, overall, good, decent keynote.
They're making a real argument for being a one-stop solution out of the box. You know, go on with Microsoft, we'll have your entire tech ecosystem taken care of. And they're drawing on the fact that they understand how people work. One of the things I think helps them in market position relative to Google or Amazon is they do have several decades of experience as a company that exists to help people be more productive. Satya Nadella has been very, very aggressive with the messaging about our goal is to empower people to become more productive over time. And what we saw here today with the demonstrations with frontline computing and the demonstrations we saw, especially on, ThyssenKrupp, the floor there, they're determined to take computing out of the office and up and down every level of an industry stack. And logistics is becoming a really hot area for computing, especially with the explosion of IoT and machine learning and data crunching. And Microsoft is determined to lock down a lot of that business.
Now, evidently, we're not done with the puppy stretches. We're coming back for a little bit more Microsoft Azure.
Be a developer, and the opportunities to really explore new approaches and technology have never been greater. But I also recognize, all this stuff is cool, but it can also be more than a little overwhelming. I hear that concern a lot with a lot of my conversations with developers around the world. The expectation to know all of these new technologies, to be up to date with them all the time, can sometimes leave you feeling like you're falling behind. And the expectations that your companies have on you to quickly deliver breakthrough experiences with all this new technology has never been higher. In a lot of cases now, the technology that we're talking about today is really being bet on to deliver radically new digital experiences that completely transform your organization's business model. And you have to be careful about security while also simultaneously trying to be an expert on all this new tech and deliver those breakthrough solutions. And needless to say, this isn't all easy. And it's really with this understanding that shapes how we try to build and deliver Azure. Every day my team comes to work to make Azure a powerful enterprise-grade cloud service. And the more important work that we do is, in terms of building Azure, is really trying to focus it to guide it around your success. Having lots of great technology and lots of features is necessary, but not sufficient. It's really about how successful you can be using this technology in the cloud that ultimately matters. And to deliver on that, we focus Azure innovation really on your needs by making cutting-edge technology approachable to all developers and doing the heavy lifting to ensure that Azure uniquely meets enterprise scenarios. This means having an end-to-end experience across our cloud services, our management tools, and development tools that provides an incredibly productive cloud experience. One that's hybrid and enables you to build solutions that run consistently within both our public cloud data centers as well as your own. It means having a cloud that enables you to use AI and data to infuse intelligence into all your solutions. And it means having a cloud that you can trust. Trust is a core value of Azure, and we lead the industry on our work around security, compliance, privacy, and responsibility. And the focus we've had on delivering on innovation, trust, and results is leading to tremendous adoption of Azure right now. And you heard Satya talk about a whole bunch of the great customers using it today. Startups, governments, and over 90% of the Fortune 500 companies in the world are now running their businesses on Azure.
He's kind of recapping stuff that has already been covered in this keynote.
Today.
Yeah.
Let's watch a video of a few of them talking about how they're using Azure to drive their success.
Microsoft Azure allows us to move forward our DevOps strategy. It's a way for us to manage, maintain, and build out our infrastructure.
The benefits we saw from the Azure migration was almost immediate.
Cosmos DB allows Domino's to have a globally redundant, reliable, and compliant solution all across the world. A few mouse clicks, you have a SQL solution in Europe.
We love the ability for us to, every single day, every single hour, almost in real time, assess what is important for our customers.
We develop one solution, and we can run that in public Azure or Azure Stack.
The key with serverless is really that you have a very short way from coding into actual operation of your code. I love Kubernetes.
Visual Studio Team Services has been super impactful in terms of our new platforms that we're building. We're using it to build CI/CD pipelines with our Azure Cloud instance.
Where Visual Studio App Center stood out was its reliability. We can write tests in one language, run them on a bunch of devices, and be able to rely on the test results.
It is very simple. I love C#. With Samsung devices, .NET is going to be everywhere.
We are all racing towards secure. By bringing the community to the data, we're actually able to speed the discovery of new knowledge.
Azure will be one of the leaders in that technology. Microsoft helped us achieve our digital transformation. It's put us over the top. We can handle the volume. We're like, bring it on. We want more.
Okay, we got a little cheerleading video for Azure. And hopefully now we get another demo.
So Azure's a broad platform. You can use Azure for infrastructure and just take advantage of it for things like compute, storage, and virtual machines. But you can also take advantage of over 100 highly engineered services to build your apps even faster. And this morning, I'm going to focus on 5 areas of innovation that we think are important for every developer as we move into this intelligent cloud and intelligent edge world. Let's start by talking about the work we're doing around dev tools and DevOps. Our mission with Visual Studio is to provide best-in-class tools for every developer. And we now have tools for developers who want a lightweight code-optimized editor, as well as for those looking for a full development IDE. And with Visual Studio Team Services, we provide a suite of developer SaaS services that deliver a complete DevOps experience. And when combined with Microsoft Azure, these tools deliver a fantastic development stack with unparalleled developer productivity for every developer. Now, one of the great new Visual Studio improvements we're making available today is a new capability we call Live Share. We think this is really a game changer in terms of enabling real-time collaborative development across teams. VS Live Share enables you to not only work collaboratively on code with your coworkers, but even do shared debugging of an app across team members. It works across both Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, and even allows developers to do live shares across Windows, Mac, and Linux dev machines simultaneously across any language and code base. And what I'd like to do now is invite Amanda Silver, who runs our Visual Studio IDE team, on stage together with Jonathan to show off a demo of Visual Studio Live Share in action. Here's Amanda and Jonathan.
All right, thanks, Scott. Let's start coding.
There we go. Some
now,
actual
today,
coding examples.
Developer collaboration usually doesn't
so
start
one of the
until
reasons I
after
want to call this out as being
commit.
fairly significant is there have been a number of people who have pointed out that thanks to generations of people growing up on the web and using things, the Google Suite to do their schoolwork, they're already used to working collaboratively. And this positioning feels like a way to reach out to a younger workforce that can't understand why you would silo things or not have a completely transparent and collaborative workforce process.
Now, to get Amanda's help, I could start a screen sharing session, but the constant back and forth over control of the keyboard gets really tedious. And frankly, I'm a little bit tired of people saying that my editor theme looks like the aftermath of Cinco de Mayo. So let's use something new instead. Let's use Visual Studio Live Share. Now, I'm on my Mac. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and I've already installed the Live Share extension. So what I'm going to do is go down to the status bar and click this share button. What that's going to generate for me is a link that I can give to Amanda to get her help in my context right here. So if we switch back over to Teams, you can see from our thread that Amanda's already pretty used to me bugging her for help, kind of like right now. So let's paste this link in and then see what it looks like from her machine to join my session.
All right, so all I have to do is go ahead and click on this link, and it'll automatically launch the preferred developer environment that I use, which is Visual Studio. Now notice, I'm on Windows, he's on Mac. I'm on Visual Studio, he's in VS Code. He likes techno party theme colors, and I like a little bit more classic themes. Now, as we join in Visual Studio, you'll see that it's populated by the context that's actually on Jonathan's machine. I have none of the dependencies that he has to run this source code. I didn't clone the repo. I don't have Node installed. I basically have nothing installed that he has a dependency on. And yet, I get all of the context and all of the language services here in Visual Studio. Now, as soon as it connects, you can see that I'm automatically brought to the place where his cursor is currently at, and I can see his cursor move around. I can also see him select things so that we can get a shared context really, really quickly and start working together. Even further, I can independently investigate what's going on in the folder so that I can look at other code to get my bearings a little bit. All right, Jonathan, now that I'm in, what's going on?
So the guest book isn't showing photos anymore, and I kind of think it's related to this code right here, but I'm not exactly sure. Any ideas what's going wrong?
Well, I have no idea looking at this, but I really can't think straight with red squiggles, so that's the first thing I have to take care of is this linting error.
This is the most polite dev session I've ever heard.
As I move around in here,
normally there's
I get
a lot
the
more
same
cursing.
Experience that you would expect from Visual Studio.
Oh,
you can see I get that
it's them putting their best foot forward, isn't it?
I can go ahead and get completion lists and select const. All right.
Now they just have to break out to argument over tabs versus spaces.
You can see the background compilation kicks in, and I have the confidence that fix worked. But that still is not enough for me to know what's going on from a debug perspective. So I can go ahead and inspect other things here, look at a peak definition of this value, and yep, this method is definitely, I think, what's going on. So I'm just going to go and promote that to the doc well.
Now, as you can see, at this point, Amanda and I are actually in entirely separate files, which is cool and not something you could achieve with screen sharing. But if at any point I want to refocus with what she's doing, I can choose to follow her cursor. What's great about this is it allows us to work independently or together, depending on what the situation demands.
All right, Jonathan, I think I know what's going on.
How are they going to handle version control?
But to be really confident, I'd like to set a breakpoint on this line and debug.
All right, and as soon as Amanda sets that breakpoint, it shows up on my end as well. What's really important about that is that LiveShare is not just an editing platform. It is real-time collaborative development, which we all know development includes debugging. So because we're in the context of a LiveShare session, if I go and press this play button, it's going to launch that app, share it with Amanda, and hit the breakpoint that she just set.
All right. It's pretty cool. Now, as soon as Visual Studio detects that he's at a breakpoint, I get moved into a debug session as well. And you can see that I get all of the capabilities that I would expect in a Visual Studio debug session. I can look at the call stack. I can look at locals and expand to understand what this is. I even have a shared debug cursor. I have access to the same execution point that he has. So I can go ahead and even step over and then get hover tips to understand what the values are. And I can see that, yep, Jonathan, I think I figured out your problem. This signature is 44, and it really should be an object. So you're calling unshift on array, but it really should be shift. So I'm just going to save that, and I think that should work.
All right, now I'd really like for Amanda to be able to verify the fix that she just made before I let her off the hook. But the Guestbook app is running local on my machine, and I'm not ready to deploy it yet, and I certainly don't want to expose it over the internet. But because LiveShare provides us with a secure connection between my and Amanda's machine, I can actually share the web app that is running on localhost with her so that she could see it as if it was running on her machine.
All right, so all I have to do is go ahead to our share session up here and look at shared servers. And you can see that I get access to his local host. I can go ahead and launch that in the browser. And I can see the app straight away, even though it's localhost hosted on his machine. Looks like we fixed the issue.
All right, I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
They're getting very excited over this.
So I'm kind of out of hot water at this point, mostly. But let's make sure that we didn't regress anything else and run our tests. Now, the Guestbook app, like many modern applications today, actually runs its tests from the command line. But Amanda's not standing right next to me to run that or view the results with me. But once again, because LiveShare provides that secure connection between the two of us, I can also share a live terminal instance with her that she will see on her end and can then run our tests and let us both view the results in real time.
So as soon as he starts that terminal, it's shared. And this isn't just a terminal that's specific to this debug session, it's actually a shared terminal access to his machine. So I could use this to inspect, developer configuration, for example, and see what version of Node is running. But in this case, I'm just going to use this to call our tests.
Did they say how many people could collaborate at the same time?
And we both see the results at the same time.
No, they haven't said that yet.
Looks like it's good.
Yeah,
they
so
also haven't said if people can watch other collaborations and then jump in, or if it's invite-based.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Right. Awesome, we're ready to go live.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to share that Visual Studio Live Share is now available for you to start using today. So you can start downloading it. Please wait till the end of the keynote, but you're welcome to start using it. And I'm also really happy to announce that we're making it free for all Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code developers on every platform.
Oh, there you go.
So one of the things you probably noticed over the last few years is the change in how Microsoft approaches open source. We not only now support open source projects in a deep way, but we also have open source much of our own product development. VS Code is just one example of the type of open source projects we help lead now. It's developed in the public on GitHub, and it's had over 17,000 developer contributions to it to make it even better. And VS Code is just one example of how we're really trying to change our development approach to be much more open and inclusive at Microsoft. Things like .NET Core, NuGet, PowerShell, and our Azure SDKs are other examples of where we're taking Microsoft projects and are now developing them in the open and hosting them on GitHub. And what I'd like to do is invite Jason Warner, the Senior Vice President of Technology at GitHub, on stage to talk a little about GitHub and some of the changes they're seeing as part of this engagement, as well as to talk about some exciting work that we're launching together today. So please join me in welcoming Jason.
So this is the whole import a Git repository and just work from that?
Well, welcome, Jason.
I've been wondering
can you tell us a little bit about GitHub?
Source, I've seen this with a couple of other big tech companies too, and it's a positioning move of some sort. But
to make developers' lives better.
I'm trying to figure out what the business benefits are here.
By revolutionizing code collaboration. Today, the majority of the world's code, both public and private, sits on GitHub, with 27 million developers collaborating across 80 million repositories. We view ourselves as stewards of developers, and we aim to reduce the friction in the entire software development lifecycle to get developers back to doing what they care about most, which is writing code.
That's awesome. So yeah, we very much obviously share your vision in terms of both how developers and specifically open source can really fuel innovation. And that's really, as I talked about, one of the core reasons why it's become such a critical part of our engineering culture over the last few years.
I think it's amazing to see what Microsoft has done in the past few years. The industry has shifted and to realize the power of open source. And in fact, I don't think it's too bold to say that open source now powers modern software development. And Microsoft might be the best example of a corporation embracing open source. We know from statistics that we have in GitHub that Microsoft is the single largest corporate contributor to open source on GitHub, and thereby extension in the history of open source. In fact, Microsoft has the largest open source community in the entire world with Visual Studio Code.
That's pretty awesome. I know in addition to contributing and projects and hosting them on GitHub, one of the other things that our two teams have been working on a lot has actually been on several other projects in terms of technology integration that we've done. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about those and from your perspective how it's helping developers.
Absolutely. We've been able to accomplish a lot over the past few years. Last year at Microsoft Connect, we announced our combined work on GVFS, which allowed Git to scale to the world's largest repositories across Windows and Linux. And with our shared developer focus, our areas of interest seem to overlap more and more with each passing year, and I'm excited to see us working this way out in the open.
I know our teams have been working hard on something new that we're launching today, and that GitHub's doing even more broadly across your ecosystem. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys are rolling out and how we're integrating?
Absolutely. Today, we're announcing
So this is more of a borrowing a generation. So the generation that's grown up on GitHub, this is the messaging of, well, just come into Visual Studio and you'll get most of the same advantages.
Integration, including linting
and
code analysis. We're excited to see what you're all going to do with that today.
Well, you and I were talking a little bit earlier about the cultural shift to collaborative work, and so it makes me it seems like Microsoft is doing a number of things to try to keep up with that shift and get in front of it.
Announced today is some of the deeper integration that we're doing between GitHub and our overall set of Azure and Visual Studio DevOps capability. And the first scenario that we're releasing today is integrating the mobile DevOps tooling support that we provide with Visual Studio App Center directly within the GitHub experience. VS App Center is something we launched late last fall, and it enables mobile developers to build, test, and distribute mobile apps to a wide variety of different devices, including both iOS and Android, to monitor the performance of those apps, as well as to collect analytics and crash dumps from them, so you can quickly improve your app with each release in a nice iterative way. And we made all this easy by integrating all of the different DevOps stages into one smooth workflow. And what's great with our GitHub partnership is we've now taken that and directly integrated as well within GitHub as part of that experience. And what we'd like to do is invite Samina, who leads the PM team for VS App Center, on stage to actually show off VS App Center and the great integration we now have with GitHub. Here's Samina.
Thank you, Scott. I am so excited to show you today how with App Center and GitHub, we take developer productivity to a whole new level. From pushing code to the repository to shipping the app to the App Store in under 3 minutes. Ready? Here in GitHub is the repository for the Smart Hotel demo app. This is an iOS app written in Swift, but the same steps work for apps written in Xamarin, React Native, or Android. The dev team has been working on a new feature, and they opened the pull request. And here in the pull request, GitHub automatically detects that no continuous integration has been set up and takes me to the GitHub Marketplace for available GitHub apps. I am looking for a mobile CI solution, and App Center is right here. to start building my repository in App Center, I need to install the GitHub app. App Center has a really great free tier, so I will go ahead and install it. I am now completing my free purchase. And finally, I am giving App Center access to my repositories. Now I am in App Center. And when I select the Smart Hotel repository, everything gets automatically detected.
Okay, that's kind of slick.
No need to enter anything manually, so I can simply continue. App Center does the magic and detects all the build settings. So now we are ready to kick off a build.
If you do use GitHub right now,
Behind the
this
scenes,
should make migration
Azure provisions
pretty
a
simple.
virtual machine with the latest tools, pulls the repository, starts a build, and when the build is completed, securely deletes the VM. With Azure, you can get from your repository to setting up continuous integration in under 3 minutes.
It's interesting how the VMs are tied to the builds
and back to the demo app,
can be eliminated after you're done with the build.
Right.
Now this build will take 1 or 2 minutes to complete. But once the build is completed, App Center will report the status back to GitHub. And here in the pull request, I can see all the checks have passed and the build is successful. Now, before merging the pull request and distributing the app to my users, I want to run a suite of automated UI tests and to make sure that no regressions were introduced. App Center offers thousands of devices with different operating systems and languages, all hosted in Azure. And here we can see how the test cases look for the iOS version run on real iPhones. But remember, App Center also supports apps written in Xamarin, React Native, and Java. So I ran the test for the Android version of the Smart Hotel app on over 100 Android devices. And all you see here are real physical devices hosted in the Azure cloud.
That is interesting. I love how they do that. So this is the verification of your UI.
Some of the tests are failing. And looks like on this device, the app did not transition to the home screen.
Well,
So
they're giving you
later,
the stats too, so it's easier for
the team
troubleshooting.
can troubleshoot the
It's great.
issues, look at
It's
the
all in
test
one.
logs, and fix
It's so
the issues.
self-contained. You don't have to run a whole suite of apps to
We
figure
have
out what's going
now
on.
seen how the app is continuously building on every change.
So
UI
for the
tests
developers out
are
there, if you've
validating
ever
the user flows.
had issues with testing on as many devices as possible, Microsoft's basically
App
saying,
Store
we'll let
to
you do
our
that from a
end
single pane
users.
of glass.
In the past, we might have done this manually, over and over again. But now we can use the same continuous delivery process and do it automatically with App Center and GitHub. So I will configure the master branch that for every successful build, it will automatically distribute it to the App Store. All I have to do is enable distribution to production right here. And with this, every new pull request merged to the master branch will trigger a new build in App Center. UI tests will be running, and once everything looks green, the new release will be uploaded to the App Store. Continuous delivery for your mobile apps has never been easier. Together, App Center and GitHub make app developers more productive.
Okay, I'm going to need more than that because you
started
promised
today.
that to me last
We
time.
know you are going to love it. Thank you.
Notice how they haven't said progressive web
So
app
because App
once.
Center is just one
Not
of
yet,
the DevOps
no.
tooling components that we provide as part of the Visual Studio family.
They also haven't
and
said
Azure
Universal
set
Windows
of
Platform yet.
DevOps tooling. With our Visual Studio Team Services family of tools, we're making it easier to adopt a DevOps-based model and set your team up for success, regardless of the application type that you're working on. VSTS is fully integrated into Azure and includes everything that you need and works with every language and runtime environment that you already use. And what I'd like to do now is invite Donovan Brown, who leads our DevOps advocate team on stage, to show how easy it is to get started using DevOps in Azure, using Visual Studio Team Services. Here's Donovan.
Thanks, Scott. Good morning, everyone. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Perfect. You know what time it is. It's time to rub a little DevOps on it and make it better. When we combine the power of Visual Studio Team Services and Azure, magic happens. We get to witness this magic every day.
You can tell he's a developer because he's got his shirt out and he's wearing jeans.
Into Azure.
Yep.
This gives our teams a unique perspective on how to apply DevOps best practices when deploying into the cloud. Let me show you how they do it. This is an actual dashboard of one of the teams that bring you VSTS every single day. It's customized to show how many days are left in the sprint and what work is currently assigned to them. We can also view this work on a Kanban board. This is a real-time status report. To update your status, you simply drag and drop. But this happens to be where our team actually works, so I probably shouldn't be moving any of these tiles around. Our team uses Git.
Trello-like interface.
And when you use
if you
Git,
never use
sometimes
that
the
for
branches
project
get out
management,
of
we've got the
control.
whole drag and drop
You don't
tiles
even
thing
remember
going.
why you created some of those branches, but not when you use our Kanban board. Here, you're able to create a branch right from the board, and this branch is now associated to this work. Every single pull request, every single commit, every single build, and every single release is automatically associated to this work. So now you know exactly why you created the item, and you get end-to-end traceability for free. Once we get our pull request made, it's time for us to go ahead and collaborate over it. In a pull request, this is a way for you to review your code and have conversations with your teams to make sure that the code is quality. If you see that piece of code that gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling, you can actually share it with your teams right here in your pull request.
What is happening?
Our pull request can also run policies, and one of the policies that we run is a build. Our builds run a staggering 77,000 unit test against every pull request, and we do this 600 times a day to ensure that we only ship the highest quality code to our customers. When our pull request is done, the code is now ready to be deployed into production. Here, we practice safe deployment. Safe deployment is where we deploy to one production environment, monitor the code before we deploy to the next production environment. This first environment, ring 0, is where the VSTS team actually works. We dog food everything that we give to our customers, because if it's not good enough for us, it's definitely not good enough for you.
There were questions about what their own DevOps teams use.
We run queries against our bugs, and if we find any, we stop our release. This used to be a manual process, but now I can use release gates. Release gates allow me to have release management automatically run queries against my bugs, automatically watch my telemetry and application insights. And if it finds any issues, release management will automatically stop our release and protect our customers.
It seems like some machine learning right there, some simple if-then, but they're going to collect that and probably use it for further troubleshooting and workflow refinement.
Could you get started in the Azure portal? We have a new feature called DevOps Projects that allow us to bring the power of Visual Studio Team Services right inside of the Azure portal. You get started like you would any other resource. You go to Create, and there is DevOps Projects. Gone are the days of you having to manually deploy code or FTP. You don't even have to right-click inside of your IDE. And as Damian Brady likes to say, friends don't let friends right-click publish. And now they never have to. And if you look at this page here, you instantly see that this is not your daddy's Microsoft. This is a Microsoft that understands
you and
Go,
I have been talking
Ruby,
about
PHP,
this,
and
how
Python.
a lot of the positioning in these keynotes has been that they are recognizing the way younger generations work and the way younger generations compute, and they just came right out and said it.
Yeah, evidently younger generations rub a little DevOps on it.
We can run your app the way that it is today inside of App Service. But if you are ready for containers, so are we.
Common better watch out, they're going to find a younger spokesperson.
Cluster for you and run your app inside of there. Let's have some fun with Kubernetes. At this point, you have to wire up your VSTS account. I see some of you getting anxious, thinking, but Donovan, we don't have a VSTS account.
Okay, I like how he
right
delivers his keynotes.
But if you happen to have your own, let's go ahead and choose one that I already have for myself. So we'll choose this one. I need to give the product a name, and now I click on Done. Now I just sit back and relax while Visual Studio and Team Services work together to build us an entire CI/CD pipeline for our Java application. When this is done, I'm going to have a portal just like this one. This is a blade that shows me everything from Visual Studio Team Services and Azure in one place. I can see my commits to my repository, the builds, and the releases. I can see my cluster and even infrastructure information coming from Application Insights down here at the bottom. If I click on this link, I get to see the sample application running in my cluster right now. Chances are you have your own code. So why don't we go ahead and show you how you can actually use your own code as well. Luckily, I can use the deep links here on our build pipeline. Jump right inside of Visual Studio Team Services, where I have complete control over this pipeline. I can simply come in here and say, why don't we edit our build definition? Let's get your code from where it exists today. Maybe your code lives inside of GitHub. So I come over here, and then I authorize my account. And then once I do, I have access to all my GitHub repos right here inside
on their
of Visual
bingo
Studio
card
Team
at this
Services.
point. They're just like,
I'm going to choose my Smart Hotel.
They got it all.
Click on Select. And now I'm going to save and queue this build. I am now pulling code upon every commit from GitHub, building this Java application and packaging it as an image. I'm then going to take that image and deploy it all the way inside of Kubernetes. I hope you realize that this is not just a new era for Microsoft. This is a new era for all of us. Because when we combine the power of Visual Studio Team Services and Azure, here at Microsoft, we can implement DevOps for any language targeting any platform. Thank you so much, everyone.
I want to see how this is going to work if someone's pulling in multiple repositories and trying to make them work together. Because, I mean, they're advocating a cookie-cutter approach to this.
Just showed us in that demo, it's now easier than
it's serial, not parallel, if that makes sense. And that's not actually how a lot of dev works.
Project support, you can set up CI/CD with a full application monitoring set up for .NET, for Java, for Node, for Python, and PHP with literally just a few clicks, or you can drive it in an automated way from the command line. And with today's updates, you can now easily do that both for web-based applications as well as container-based Kubernetes clusters using our new Azure Kubernetes service, or AKS as we call it for short. It supports Git-based source control repositories in both Visual Studio Team Services as well as GitHub, and you can get started with it now for free. So now that we've covered some of the developer tooling improvements that we're shipping this week, let's now jump into discussing some of the Azure platform improvements that we're delivering as well. One of the things that makes Azure really powerful is the coherent set of highly engineered services that enable you to build, deploy, and scale your applications even faster. For example, our Azure Web App service provides an incredibly optimized way to run web applications as well as expose web APIs. Our Azure Serverless Functions service makes it incredibly easy to host serverless apps and code that can scale from just handling, say, 1 request per second up to literally millions of requests per second simultaneously. And with both our Azure Kubernetes service and Service Fabric offerings, we enable you to build modern container-based microservice applications. Let's talk a little bit about the new AKS service I mentioned. So our new AKS, or Azure Kubernetes service, provides a fully managed Kubernetes-based orchestration service. It provides built-in auto-patching, auto-scaling, and update support, which enables you to take the full breadth of the Kubernetes ecosystem when you're doing your development. And we're releasing a bunch of great updates with it this week at Build. One of the capabilities we're really excited to share is a new feature we call Dev Spaces. Dev Spaces enables a fast, inner-loop development experience when building Kubernetes-based microservice applications. It enables you to edit and deploy code instantaneously, as well as debug and set breakpoints across multiple containers running in a microservice-based environment. And it's designed to work both great for individual developers, but where it really shines is when you have a team of developers working together and you want to share a common team-based development environment and be able to test and iterate independently as appropriate. What I'd like to do is invite Scott Hanselman on stage to show off some of the new improvements we're shipping this week with Azure Kubernetes Service, as well as demonstrate how you'll be able to take advantage of Dev Spaces to get a super smooth inner-loop development experience with Kubernetes on Azure. Here's Scott.
So this is not just a new tool. They're really advocating a different way of working.
Hey, friends.
Yep.
So we saw Donovan take a Java app through Azure DevOps projects, and he deployed that to AKS. Fast forward 30 days later, and the project is a lot bigger, the company's a lot bigger, and let's say that I'm a new developer. So I need to get up to speed on how to work on this as quickly as possible. This is the site that I'm working on, and I'm going to come down here because I was told that there was a bug. When people go and search for hotels, I can type in New York and I find my New York, but when they type in Seattle, it doesn't work. So something is wrong. However, this application has a lot going on. I'm going to switch over to Visual Studio. That's where I live as a Visual Studio developer. And this is where I feel most comfortable, and I see that there's 8 different projects here. There's 8 different projects here, and there's maybe dozens and dozens elsewhere. And I'm told by Brady, who set up the AKS environment, that each one of these projects within Visual Studio maps directly to a microservice that's running in a container inside of AKS. So if I switch over into Azure, I can see all the different containers, not just the ones that are in Visual Studio, but the ones that other teams are working on that might be running in different languages in different environments. I can see there's my hotel service. This is all running as part of Azure Kubernetes Service, which is pretty amazing because it is a fully managed service. I don't have any VMs to worry about. I didn't create a bunch of VMs and then install Kubernetes on them. I just have Kubernetes as a service. I can go and upgrade at any time. I can hit scale, and I can go and say I want 8 CPUs or I want hundreds of CPUs. It's totally up to me. Now within this cluster, I can also peer into the health of individual containers. You can see, so that's green, that's good. OK is good. I'm going to open that up. Here's all these containers, and I can scope my namespace. Mainline is where I'm told that the bug is, and all the services can be picked from. I'm going to pick hotels, because that's the one that I am currently working on. If I click on hotels, and then open that up, I see some interesting stuff that the CPU is about 4 or 5%. There's my hotels container that I want to debug, because I think that's where the problem is. And I'm going to hit View Logs. Now when I click into View Logs, I didn't have to install anything. This all comes as part of this service. I've got this rich logging experience right off the bat. And Brady gave me some queries to try out so I could learn this as a new developer. And I've put a couple of those into the clipboard. So here, I can go and do a search and say run. And now I'm looking at aggregate CPU over all of the containers instantly. You see it was about 4 or 5%. So obviously my problem is not a CPU related problem, but I'm here to fix a bug, and I want to see if I can use the analytics to do that, because again, there's dozens of containers. So I've got a query here where I'm going to look for places that return 0 results, because when I typed in Seattle, I got back 0 results. And then I know that it's written in C#, because that's my language and that's the thing I'm working on. So I'm going to look for places where it contained the word controller. So hopefully we'll see if we can narrow down where this bug might have happened. And I can zoom in here and see the places where the bug has happened in the public web. And I can even change this and see how often that bug happens and then render it as a chart. Again, all of this built into the service and lets me do some amazing stuff. So I can see that clearly Brady checked into production at 5 and then just went home. So that's when the bugs started. So he won't be working here much longer. Which is good for me as a new developer, because I'm moving up in the company.
Chart. Okay, so this is all good. I like the incremental feature increases here, but one of the things that they really haven't shown us yet, and you brought this up, is how is revisioning going to work? When you have huge teams of collaborators here, and you're essentially inviting everyone into a free-for-all, you're going to need some very strong revisioning, and revisioning that's not linear.
And it's going to be tied to specific users. So if somebody's persistently breaking something in a way that doesn't work, you can go offline with them and say, listen, this is what you're doing wrong. There's a reason why 5 people just had to fix 5 mistakes you made.
Right.
And then up here,
and you're
the actual microservice get that goes and talks to the back end. Now, we have 10 microservices here I can see in Visual Studio, but just so you can get a real sense, there's dozens elsewhere, and some of them are in different languages, but some of them are actual Azure services like Cosmos DB or Postgres or SQL. There's a lot going on to make this happen. So I go back over to Cities Controller and I say, all right, we're looking for default cities, or, okay, and there's the bug. They didn't call get, they call get default cities, so that's a problem. They're actually only looking at the hard-coded cities. I'm going to change city queries to say get, pass in name, and go like this. Now I'm going to set a breakpoint, and you'll notice that this is all just the stuff that I ordinarily do as a Visual Studio developer, right? Nothing interesting going on here. However, if I were to hit F5 ordinarily, I might need to start up all of this stuff. Think about the amount of work it takes when someone says, hey, welcome to the company, here's a laptop, let's get this set up with a tiny production environment on your underpowered laptop, and then next week, we'll make you more productive. That's a complicated experience. I don't want to have that experience. Instead, I'm going to use Azure Dev Spaces, and I'm gonna run this stuff up in AKS. I have my own personal space up there. Now, I think it's my own personal space because there's at least 5 Scotts that work at the company and a number of women with the last name Scott. So it could be 7 potential Scotts that are going on here. But I think this is my space. Did my microphone leave?
No, that's them. That's on their side. He's having a... Sure, it's okay. This is their glitch.
Hi.
They get a glitch.
Test, test. Hey. How y'all doing? It's all good.
They gave him a stick mic, and it's not,
I'm not really
quite
sure
working.
how that's planning on working. So
we'll put it in his
Let me
pocket.
add some value.
They all need
Okay. Well done.
This is how
I'm Scott. I'm new here.
Okay, good.
So I've got my own space here within Azure Dev Spaces, and this is really significant. I want to point this out. Notice how hotels is boldface. That's the microservice that I want to debug. That's not the website. It's a microservice as part of the website that then talks to other microservices, like the profile, like the backend database. When I hit F5 and go and debug this, it's going to do a lot for me. I want to point out that I don't have Kubernetes installed. I don't have any virtual machines here. This is not running here. It's running in Azure Dev Spaces. And this is my own private space. I'm just running that one hotels. Now, we've seen demos before when you hit F5 and then a miracle happens, but I really want you to feel this in your chest. We are not hitting F5 on the website. I just want to debug that one microservice. I'm going to compile all of this into containers, put it into Azure Container Registry, drop it into Kubernetes. And then when we hit the URL, we'll take a look at the URL, and you notice that it says Scott. That's my space, but I'm not affecting anyone else in my team because I want to make sure that I get an environment that feels like production but isn't. I type in Seattle, and now we're going to hit a breakpoint, and I can hover over it, and I get the great experience in Visual Studio as if I were local, but I have my own private space with dozens of microservices all working together, and I just pressed F5. So what did we see? We have a fully managed Kubernetes. We've got auto patching, scaling. We've got upgrades. We've got an integrated container health. I searched terabytes of logs instantaneously. I've got the ability to rapidly debug and fix apps in a complicated environment like this with just Visual Studio and my Azure subscription. And thanks to AKS and Azure Dev Spaces, Azure has the best Kubernetes experience in the cloud. Thank you.
I would actually agree with that.
That's just going to make the market domination.
I've been joking
I like
for
how they
years
haven't
we've got to do some
mentioned
kind of
Google
pair
or
demo,
Amazon once. They've just simply like, this is what we do. This is what we do.
Well, they know what it is. I mean, Amazon's market's what, 30%? Microsoft's got 13, 14. Google's down near 5.
Yeah. And Amazon, I think, has more of a first mover advantage than they do a technical advantage, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know, they were out there first, but I think the thing Microsoft has that Amazon doesn't have is a thorough understanding of how to integrate their back-end tools into worker-facing systems.
Right.
You might not be fully using. And Azure enables you to really build a serverless-based solution that can respond to literally millions of events per second. Our Azure Function service enables you to execute on-demand serverless code written in a wide variety of different languages, including C#, JavaScript, Python, and Java. And our Azure Logic App service enables you to execute on-demand serverless workflows. These workflows can use more than 100 built-in data and app connectors that we provide out of the box, enabling you to integrate your workflows with data and actions that are in Office 365 or Dynamics 365, Salesforce, SAP, Adobe, Twitter, and more, and securely process and route data across long-running processes. These workflows can also then invoke Azure Function Apps, giving you a really robust way that you can integrate both code as well as declarative workflows together. Now, one of the new capabilities of Azure that you heard us talk a lot more about this week at Build is our Azure Event Grid service. Event Grid provides a routing service that makes it easy to route events from a wide variety of different event sources and connect them to event handlers to process them. Event Grid guarantees reliable event delivery and will automatically queue, for example, messages for later delivery if your event listener is not available. and it can scale to support millions of events per second. And enables you to build really robust event-driven architectures that enable you to eliminate polling and the associated costs of latency within your applications. And it runs both in the cloud with Azure, but you can also, it's included as part of our Azure IoT Edge as well as Azure Stack offerings. Now you can set up event grid routes programmatically using code. One of the cool things we're also doing starting this week is making it incredibly easy to set up events using the Azure portal as well. For example, this is a screenshot of a storage account in the Azure portal, so our standard Azure Blob storage service. And you'll notice now that we expose an events link on Azure resources directly inside the portal. And if you don't have any events registered, when you click that link, we actually provide sort of some nice helpful UI that enables you to easily create and run serverless functions or logic apps that'll execute when a particular event occurs. For example, here is a sample tutorial that's built in now. We make it super easy to create and wire up a serverless logic app workflow that can execute, for example, every time a video file is uploaded into my Azure storage account. Here's what the logic app workflow looks like. You can see you kind of compose this workflow graphically using our designer. And notice how the built-in workflow is taking the uploaded file and then in turn calling an Azure cognitive service that we call our video indexer service that'll automatically transcribe the speech in the video into a text file into that storage account. The great thing is I didn't have to write any code.
Because it suggests that eventually they're going to dilute this down to the point where it's drop, drag, and click for people who are not developers.
That's really looks to be the trend. They just want you to drag the different Azure modules and then hook up the connectors on what data they'll be taking from each other. And that's it. You go ahead and push it.
What I want to hear more about is how machine intelligence is going to be influencing tools like this in the back end, because I feel like we haven't talked about that much at all.
Yeah, that's surprising because that first part of the keynote showed so much promise of some blue sky tools. I was kind of hoping they'd at least code one or two of those blue sky tools, but okay.
Or show how machine learning is influencing the way that you can develop things.
Precisely. Like right now, if they showed me the drag and drop module to drop the Cortana speech recognition into my software, I would be all over that.
Is rapidly growing. We already have thousands of Azure IoT certified hardware devices in the market today, supported by hundreds of different partners. And what's great is that means as a developer, you can easily build Azure IoT-based solutions and take this hardware, take these solutions, and easily integrate them with our Azure IoT cloud services. And let's take a look at how we could do this. So our Azure IoT Hub service enables you to securely connect and manage up to billions of IoT devices. It was the thing that was on that back end when Sam was showing the drone, for example, in Satya's keynote this morning. And what's great about Azure IoT Hub is it can work with any IoT device out there and includes built-in security management capabilities. So for example, you can tell it to patch the device automatically, as well as device twin support, so that you can actually query and update the configuration of any device, even when the device is offline. And when it comes back online, it'll automatically update. And as a developer, it provides a great event-driven serverless programming model built on Azure Functions that enables you to both ingest telemetry from any device, as well as interact and program it from the cloud. And so I bet many of you here have never built an IoT app before. You're probably wondering, well, okay, that sounds good. How easy is it to do? What I'd like to do is invite Jeff Hollins on stage to show off, literally from scratch, how easy it is to build using Azure IoT Hub and our Azure Serverless Functions programming model. So here's Jeff.
Okay, now here we go. Here's a demo I want to see.
Thank you all very much, and thank you, Scott. All right, so I want to show you just how easy it is for every single developer to get started building applications across IoT and the cloud. And to do that, Scott has given me a challenge to build an IoT application from scratch, live in front of all of you now, in less than 5 minutes. And the application that I want to build is going to center around this IoT button. Now, this is a very simple IoT device created by one of our partners. And how it works is that whenever somebody presses this button, it automatically wakes up, connects to Wi-Fi, and sends some data up into the cloud. Now, the application that I have to build centers around Twitter. So I'm showing here a Twitter account, hashtag Azure IoT Demo if you want to follow along. And what I need to build is an application so that if you're at the conference and you see this button or buttons just like it and you see something awesome, that you can press this button and let the world know through a tweet that something awesome is happening and where they can go to check it out. All right, so with that, let's start the clock and see what we can do.
Now.
All right, the first part of this application is how these devices securely connect to the cloud. And for that, I'm in my Azure portal, and I can create a brand new IoT Hub. IoT Hub is an all-in-one service in Azure that allows me to connect, configure, manage, and monitor all of my IoT devices at massive scale. Now, I already have an IoT Hub in my subscription, so let's open it up here and see what it's doing. You'll notice that there's actually a number of devices already connected to this hub, and it's even been sending some data throughout the day today. And I can come in here and drill into the devices that I've paired with this IoT Hub. And I want to point out right here at the top of this list, this is my IoT button in my hand. Now, we need some code to run whenever these buttons are pressed. So to do that, I'm going to come here into Visual Studio and create a brand new Azure Functions project. This will enable me to have serverless code run on demand to all of these IoT events. And serverless and IoT pair great together because as I continue to add more devices and data, my application automatically scales. So in this new project, let's go ahead and add a new function. You'll notice there's actually a number of triggers that I can use to start this code, but I'm just going to use this IoT Hub trigger right here. And let's associate it with my IoT Hub in my subscription. Now here's where I can write whatever code I want to run in response to events. And to prove this out, let's just change this line of code and have it say button pressed. And we'll click save here and click run. Now I'm going ahead now, and what's powerful with Azure Serverless is that I can actually run Azure Functions locally on my machine and debug it. In fact, I've gone ahead now and just pressed this button, and you'll notice that my function on my PC was able to securely connect to IoT Hub, see that trigger, and run my code. In fact, just to prove it again, I'll press this button again, and you'll notice here we got another log message. So I can very easily
This is that drag and drop theory of developing IoT devices.
Now, there's two pieces of information that I care about for my application to work. And the first is the location of the device. And that's because I want to include that location in the tweet of where something awesome is happening. And the second thing that I want to know is the type of message that's being sent.
IoT demonstrations.
As you notice,
and
my
pointing
IoT Hub
out,
is actually filled with a bunch of devices.
How to have it go from this is how it's going to look to this is how you're going to make it work.
I actually want to make sure that the type
now,
is in fact
if you've ever done any coding for even an at mega chipset, this is all going to look very familiar. This is a simple button press going back to Azure Services that triggers a function that you're writing.
To grab an OAuth 1 token in that amount of time. So instead, what I'm going to do is leverage another piece of Azure Serverless, which is logic apps. So I'm back here in the Azure portal, and here I can create serverless workflows. Now I'm going to add an action here, and what's powerful is that not only can I add other Azure functions that I've written, but there's over 200 connectors here out of the box to enable me to integrate with services like Cosmos DB, Cognitive Services, GitHub, Google Docs, the Microsoft Graph, even on-premises SAP. Now this is incredible for me as a developer because this is all function code that I don't have to write. So that if I want my application to do something like post a tweet to Twitter, I just select the Twitter connector, say I want to post a tweet. I've got some text here ready to go. Let's paste this in. And we'll even pass in the location of that device.
To be fair, he could have done this whole thing in 30 seconds.
The last thing I need to do here is wire it up to my Azure function. So let's grab this URL here and write one last line of code. And if you think it's hard to write code when someone's looking over your shoulder, imagine doing it in front of thousands of people. That's okay. Make sure to make this awaitable. I'm going to add this, click save, run, time. All right, we've got time to spare. Let's test this out now.
Episode of 24.
I'm back here in Twitter. I'm going to go ahead now and press this button. That Azure function has kicked off and triggered. It sent the location data to that Twitter connector. And when I click refresh here, you will see here now is a tweet sent to the world, letting them know that something awesome just happened here at Build.
A super simple IoT application, but it does show how easy it is to develop.
A sample on GitHub so that if you go check out this tweet, you can build the same solution in a few minutes later today. And I was able to build this entire application that could now scale to thousands of IoT applications in less than 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
One of the things that Jeff mentioned, if you go to our booth, we're actually giving out thousands of these internet-connected buttons. And so it's super easy to build this exact same app yourself, and you can become an IoT developer. So, Jeff showed you how easy it is to connect, a simple Wi-Fi connected button to Azure, and how easy it was to basically write code in the cloud that interacted with it. And this is great for many, many different scenarios where you really only need to run the logic in the cloud. But as Satya talked about this morning, the trend that we're seeing is where we're also increasingly moving to one where you also want to be able to run logic on the edge as well and interact both with the device and the environment in even richer ways and be able to do it locally while still retaining
This
cloud
is like their
connection.
intelligent cameras.
Azure IoT Edge runs on both Windows and Linux devices.
I just saw a drone on the
and
slide
provides
there,
a really
so I'm
easy
wondering if we're
way
going to see
to
a demo
build
with that.
and deliver application functionality on the edge. It supports a container-based programming model that you can use to both develop and deploy apps on the edge, and supports running serverless-based Azure functions directly on the device. In fact, we've taken the Azure Functions programming model, and it's just part of Azure IoT Edge, as well as Event Grid. And this enables you to use the same container and serverless skills and technologies that we just talked about running in the cloud to be able to run on the edge device as well. And you can basically deploy and run both code as well as your own AI models using our Azure Cognitive Services, or by building and training your own model, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, on the edge as well, and run it in the context of an Azure IoT Edge device. And this gives you both an incredibly powerful and a very elegant way to build IoT solutions. What I'd like to do now is hand it back over to Jeff to show off how you can take this first IoT scenario that we just demoed and now extend it to build and deploy custom code and AI models using Azure IoT Edge.
Thanks, Scott. All right, so let's extend that application we just started. And what if instead of requiring somebody to press a button when they see something awesome, what if the device itself actually knew that there were awesome things around it and automatically sent a tweet? Now, to do that, I want to talk about Azure IoT Edge. So I'm back here in my Azure portal, and this is my IoT hub. This is the same hub we were just using for my button. But I want to call out here that there's a section here for my IoT Edge devices. Now, these are devices that actually run pieces of the Azure cloud directly on the device itself. And these aren't fancy devices that you have to special order. These are devices that you're likely already using today. In fact, two that I want to call out here is my Windows PC that I'm developing on right here, and this Raspberry Pi that's next to me, which is actually running Linux. Now, both of these are edge devices, and both of them have cameras. So I want to leverage those cameras to be observing the environment and figuring out if there's awesome things around. So let's check out the solution and what it looks like. Now, this inside of Visual Studio Code is my IoT Edge solution that I can completely build and manage here. A few things I want to call out. This same solution and same code is running both on my Windows PC and on this Raspberry Pi running Linux, and it's made up entirely of containers. Now, this is great because it means as I'm building these, I get the benefits that containers bring, like portability and consistency, regardless of the form factor that it's running on. Now, this solution is just 3 simple parts. The first one is this startup container. I'm just going to start it up on the device, grab the camera feed, and push that feed to a machine learning model. Now, the second piece here, this is that machine learning model that needs to identify, are there awesome things around or not? But what's exciting here is just how easy it was for me to build this. In fact, to build this model, I leveraged the Azure Custom Vision service. This is one of the cognitive services that enables developers to upload samples of images.
This is for their module, not the Raspberry,
and after you
correct?
train the model, you can actually upload new images that it has never seen before, and it will be able to predict for you what this image should be classified like. So let me show you the project that I've built for this demo. You might be able to see here from the text, here's my custom vision portal, and I want to build my own Scott or Not app, because chances are if Scott is somewhere at build, there's something awesome happening. So here's the sample images I've uploaded. It's a wall of awesomeness. Some of these images are tagged with Scott, and some of them are tagged not. And I can go ahead and tag these and then click this train button right up here. But I don't want to have to be sending the feed from all of my devices constantly up into the cloud to identify if it's Scott or not.
There's enough power in that small module
here
to
is
do
that after
decent
training
facial
the model,
recognition?
I can actually click this export button and export this model to run on any device, even locally
Is it
on the
calling
IoT
back
edge.
to something else? I wonder. I mean, it can be
Yeah, he
something
says this
else.
is without the benefit of Azure, so this is all on the edge.
Say I want this to be Linux, click download, save,
How is that
done.
working?
This
You
is the
just
exact
I'd rather see
container
answers.
that I have now imported into this solution, running now on these devices, looking at that camera feed and identifying, is this Scott or not? Now that's generating a lot of data, and in order to deal with that data, I have my third piece, which is an Azure function, running on a container on the device. Now I actually want to show you that Azure function code because it should look familiar. This is the code here, and this is the exact same code that I wrote for my button a few minutes ago The only difference is that this is running on the device locally, and you'll notice instead of looking if it's a button press or not, I'm actually detecting if it's Scott or not. Now, I built this whole application, I've deployed it, and works on my Windows PC. So now let's talk about this Raspberry Pi that I also want to run it on. So if you're not familiar, this is a Raspberry Pi right here. It's a computer the size of a credit card. It has an ARM processor, it only has a gig of memory. It can run Windows IoT Core, but for right now, I'm actually running Linux on it. Now, I want to pull in all of that power of the Azure cloud.
I get it. So they've got like a workstation that's acting as the edge processing power, and then this is just the remote node off of that workstation.
Huh. So here's the camera feed. I'm going to go ahead.
So it seems like that actually has a lot of remote field deployment potential, because this way, instead of having to have a whole lot of bandwidth field, you have a small self-contained system with one board. It's almost a hub and spoke model.
Right. What we're seeing right now is the Raspberry Pi.
And you'll notice that
there we go. So the camera, he's got a little LED hat on the thing, and the camera can actually recognize if it's Scott or not. So it takes a picture, sends it back to the workstation. Workstation confirms or denies.
Hopefully it was a flattering shot that it took of you, which also includes a link to this code. Now that's fantastic, and just an example how, as a developer, I can use these powerful tools to build applications at massive scale on the Azure cloud. But when I need to, I can actually pull pieces of that cloud down and run with that power on a device as simple as this Raspberry Pi. Thank you so much.
Right. Thanks, Jeff.
We got people in the chat room pointing out how expensive the studio is, but remember, if you are a student, it's free.
In all of these IoT demos is now available for you to use starting today, and you can build incredibly powerful IoT solutions using Azure and really take advantage of this intelligent cloud, intelligent edge world. Now, one of the most important decisions you'll make as you start to build large-scale cloud applications, whether it's for IoT or for any other scenario, is how to store and represent your data. So let's spend some time talking about how you can do that with Azure and some of the cool new things coming out this week. Azure now provides an incredibly flexible choice of operational data services. In our Azure SQL database, Postgres, MySQL, Redis, and Cosmos DB services are databases that we provide as a service, which means we provide them as a database service with an SLA, and it's a fully automated managed service. This means you don't have to manually configure your databases for high availability or have to manually patch or update them. These are capabilities built into the services that we provide for you. We similarly provide built-in backup as well as point-in-time restore capabilities. The ability to easily scale up and scale down capacity at will very quickly.
This has been one of their talking points for a while. This is Microsoft saying they'll handle all your infrastructure for you.
This enables you to be much more productive and build applications
It's a compelling sales pitch.
Very compelling,
the
actually.
flexibility of your favorite database of choice. At last year's Build Conference, we released
One of the tensions that I've seen at some Microsoft conferences, it comes between people who are already out there on with edge computing and clouds and people who are dealing with legacy systems and very limited IT budgets or regulations that don't let them easily adopt technology like this. And Microsoft saying, relax, we have this solution out of the box, we'll roll it out when we're ready, is something that helps them keep both constituencies happy, I think.
Right.
With Cosmos DB, you have a horizontally scalable database that puts data everywhere your users are. Cosmos DB enables you to automatically replicate data across all Azure regions around the world, giving your users lightning-fast performance regardless of wherever they're accessing your application. Cosmos DB allows you to scale your storage and performance throughput across one or multiple Azure regions with zero application downtime. You can start with just, say, gigabytes of data and then scale up to manage petabytes of it. You can start by processing just, say, 100 operations per second, but then scale to tens of millions of operations per second around the world. And best of all, with Cosmos DB, you pay only for the storage and performance throughput that you provision. And Cosmos DB is unique in that it allows you to program against it using a variety of different APIs and data models. We support MongoDB, Gremlin Graph, Table, SQL APIs, Spark APIs, as well as Cassandra APIs. And this gives you maximum programming model flexibility and enables you to easily reuse code and libraries that you already have. This week at Build, we're announcing a bunch of great new improvements to Cosmos DB. These include new pricing options that help developers achieve, in some cases, up to 10x cost savings over their solutions. And it also includes an incredibly powerful new capability, which is multi-master write support. Cosmos DB now supports unlimited read and write scalability by virtue of a highly decentralized masterless replication protocol support. This guarantees single-digit millisecond reads and now writes response time at the 99th percentile anywhere in the world, which is something no other database in the world delivers today.
I want to know how they do that.
And with its unique adaptive entropy protocol, Cosmos DB significantly reduces write conflicts, which makes it much easier to build multi-master write scenarios and applications. In the event of a write-write conflict, Cosmos DB supports both a well-defined policy-based programming model that's built into the transaction system, as well as the ability for developers to add their own custom logic conflict. These are incredible innovations that really enable you to build truly planet-scale applications. And what I'd like to do now is invite Rima, who's one of the core architects of Cosmos DB, on stage to show off an example of how easy it is to use this multi-master write support to build amazing cloud solutions. Here's Rima.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone. It's really, really exciting to be at Build here this year. Now, imagine you want to build a planet-scale intelligent app serving millions of users all around the world. In this demo, I'll show you how easy it is to take any app and scale it globally using multi-master capability in Azure Cosmos DB. Now, to show you the benefits of multi-master for global scale apps, we have built a multi-user interactive canvas with millions of pixels inspired by the Reddit Place experiment. This app is running across all Azure regions with the data stored inside Cosmos DB and replicated across all Azure regions as well. The app needs to deliver instant writes and instant reads to millions of users worldwide. In this demo, I'll show you two canvases, one pointing to replica in West US, and another one is pointing to replica in Japan West. Users in those regions can draw and view each other's drawings in near real time all over the world. Now let's see this in action. So I will go to the canvas in West US.
This is them planting their flag as to the robustness of their global network and their global cloud, so that all that collaboration stuff happens in near real time, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, they've also planted the flag with the stack, because I mean, again, that is unique.
Each other's drawings in near real time. I can even draw maybe a tic-tac-toe game and play it with Ben. So every single update from every single user gets written to the nearest region and becomes available all around the world in near real time. This canvas is stored inside Cosmos DB. So let's take a look at how this data gets stored inside Cosmos DB. I can come to the portal, click on the Data Explorer, and view this data, all of the pixels, the locations of the pixels, and the colors that get chosen by the users. Now, we're very excited that right after this keynote, we're going to open up this application to all of the users worldwide, so all of you could participate in this globally distributed drawing experiment powered by the multi-master capabilities in Azure Cosmos DB. Now remember, this is not just a regular app. This is a globally distributed application.
Come crash our app.
Building such apps is really, really challenging. Azure Cosmos DB, as a natively built in the cloud service, was carefully engineered with multi-tenancy and global distribution from the ground up. With its turnkey global distribution capability, I can come to the world map, I can pick the regions where I want my data to be, click the Save button, and that's it. The data gets seamlessly replicated and becomes available for querying locally in those regions. And as I'm adding and removing those regions, my application does not need to be paused or redeployed. It continues to be highly available thanks to the multi-homing capability that Cosmos DB provides. Now, the key thing that I want you all to remember is that independent of the data scale, whether you're working with a petabyte or hundreds of petabytes of data, independent of the data model or the data distribution or potential failures that may occur when you're running at such a massive scale, Cosmos DB continues to provide you with a single system image for all of these globally distributed resources. This is something that no other database in the world can offer you today. Now, the multi-master, and not just any multi-master, but the multi-master at true global scale. With its natively built-in multi-master capabilities in Cosmos DB, application developers get numerous benefits. Number one is you get unlimited and elastic write scalability all around the world. You can perform trillions of writes and reads every single second on a single globally distributed Cosmos database, whether it happens to be a graph or a table or a collection of documents. With the natively built-in multi-master support, you get 5 nines write availability all around the world, in addition to the 5 nines read availability, backed up by the industry-leading SLAs. With the natively built-in multi-master capability, you get a single-digit millisecond write latency guarantee at the 99th percentile all around the world. Now, databases that offer masterless replication can give you low latency writes, and they can give you high write availability, typically trading it off for consistency. What is truly unique about Cosmos DB multi-master replication is that it composes incredibly well with the multiple well-defined consistency models that the service offers you. So developers can make precise, intuitive, and well-defined trade-offs with respect to latency, consistency, high availability in Cosmos DB. With databases that support multi-master
Okay, you have to actually show me how it does that, though.
Active workloads.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a hand wave there.
I've seen this slide before.
Yeah.
Multiple
It's a very nice
users could be
slide,
joined to
but it
exactly
doesn't
the
tell
same
me
pixel
anything.
at the same time.
I mean, it's an interesting 10,000-foot view, but unless you're telling me how I trade that off and how I define my policies of who has right, then you're just throwing words at me.
We wanted to remove all of that burden away from the developers. So Cosmos DB, in addition to its anti-entropy protocol that tries to reduce the number of record-level write-write conflicts down to the minimum. But in the case when the conflict occurs, developers can pick among multiple, flexible conflict resolution policies. Cosmos DB supports automatic policy with the native CRDT support. You can also write your logic in the form of a stored procedure as a custom conflict resolution policy, or use last write wins. Now, in conclusion, with its highly decentralized multi-master protocol, multiple well-defined consistency model, and the capability where the developers can add and remove any number of regions in a scale-independent manner, Cosmos DB becomes a ubiquitous choice for the modern application development in the intelligent cloud, intelligent edge era. Every single app that you're building could transform the world that we're living in. And if your app happens to need a database, we sure hope it's going to be Cosmos DB. We're very excited to see what you're going to build with Cosmos DB. Thank you so much. Back to you, Scott.
Okay, I'm a little disappointed in you. The other demos have been pretty good, but that was just smoking.
Yeah, this was pretty insubstantial.
You can take all of your data and use it together with AI to add true intelligence into your applications. Our goal with Azure is to enable every developer to easily add AI to their applications. With our Azure Cognitive Services, we enable you to easily call pre-built AI models that we expose through API services. As you heard from Satya this morning, we provide great AI models to do things like speech-to-text translation, image detection, object detection, video translation, language services, and more. And you can invoke all of these using either our REST APIs or by using our pre-built .NET, Java, Python, and Node SDKs. Now, in addition to calling these cognitive services programmatically, one of the cool new capabilities that we're making available today is native integration of cognitive services with our Azure Search service. Azure Search enables you to index any type of content and build rich search experiences from it. And with this new cognitive services support, you can now, for example, just automatically index images, videos, and PDFs, use AI to extract all that insight from it, things like face and object detection, sentiment analysis, and video transcription, and just expose it directly as part of your search experience. Now, we've worked with some great customers using our Azure Cognitive Services. One of those is the NBA, who are using it to deliver some really great experiences. And please join me in welcoming Garth Case from the NBA to talk a little bit about the work they're doing with us and what this experience enables. Here's Garth.
Thanks a lot, Scott.
So the NBA
Good to see you.
is
All
at
right.
a developers conference.
So
Why not?
I'm going to start with a question.
This
Show
is
of
the
hands.
post-Moneyball era. Data
How many
is a
NBA
huge
fans
part of
do we have in
professional
the room?
sports, right?
Okay, it's a reasonable amount. So my name is Garth Case. I'm in my 20th year at the NBA. There are two
I think we're in the
questions
20th year
I
of
get
this keynote.
asked most frequently.
God, I know,
The
right?
very first one is, have I
Bring me
met
to the
Michael
AI.
Jordan, Shaq, Kobe, or LeBron? I'm lucky enough to say, Yes, to all of that, I have. The second question, though, why have I stayed so long at the NBA? The answer might seem cliche, but it truly is because of the people. Working for the NBA, I've had the opportunity to meet and learn from the best and brightest in sports. Now, for those of you that don't know, during the NBA regular season, 30 teams play 82 games. Each game generates terabytes of content. As you can imagine, this much information makes it difficult to manage and curate and get insights delivered consistently across all our internal and external channels. Now let's talk about the NBA's journey to finding a solution to our growing data problem. 18 months ago, when we first started to organize and understand our data, we started like most, thinking that we could build a data lake and that would solve all our problems. But our data lake quickly became a data swamp. And it was difficult to hear important signals in the data through all the noise. Even though we had designed the perfect analytics layer, we needed something more. We needed a learning layer. Okay. All right. Analytics layers are usually active post-ingest of data, but a learning layer could be active through all stages, from ingest all the way to archive. It would help us organize and graph our data, surface patterns that connect dots and allow us to focus on the high-value information. We would now be able to hear the signals loud and clear. This pivot in our journey meant that we were no longer building just a data lake. We're building a smart data platform. This revelation gave birth to many use cases and scenarios. Most of them related to data mining, process automation, and decision intelligence. As I searched for technologies that we could use to build our smart data platform, I saw a demo where Microsoft used an AI-driven approach to understand the recently released JFK files. They were able to run thousands of unstructured documents through their system and build a knowledge graph using a set of AI models and services. Their use of new cognitive capabilities in Azure Search, as well as leveraging custom and pre-built AI, appeared to be the perfect recipe for a cocktail that would enable us to understand our content and add the layer of learning and intelligence we needed to build our smart data platform. Now, as we built the platform, we also developed plenty of value-driven use cases and scenarios. One of these use cases in production today is the application called NBA Photo Sorter. The name is not terribly creative, I know that. But please feel free to tweet me if you have any suggestions. Before the photo sorter was created, the effort of tagging photos took a very, very long time. It was extremely manual, resource intensive, and sometimes inaccurate. Now with the help of Azure, photos and other types of content can be automatically tagged and related quickly and increased accuracy. The photo sorter has already aided us in quickly tagging VIP photos from our events. These photos are turned into printed and digital albums, which are given to VIPs as a personalized gift. But this example is just the beginning. As we get more insight from our data, I see a future where we can not only further automate our business, but use the system to connect our channels and drive personalized, value-based engagement with our fans across the world.
I believe we have reached the critical mass of buzzwords
we've embarked on a journey.
A short amount of time.
To bring really AI into the world of the NBA.
I mean, I get it. So this is an AI that helps me tag all of my content. You could have just said that.
Power the next generation of experiences. For employees,
I always feel for the folks who have to talk at another vendor's event because they're charged with promoting two separate corporate brand messages at the same time, and they have to do so in a way that somehow seems natural and organic and not like, I better walk this line.
NBA playoffs.
But
where you can experience,
especially putting them at the bottom of a keynote when everyone's already going, wait, what are we doing?
In the world.
Everyone's already tired, and I think I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen a demo where we see someone coding and working with machine learning. Seeing how machine learning is going to enhance the way that they do their job, because I'm still not clear on that. I mean, I get where they're going, but I don't see the steps to get there.
Yeah, I mean, if you had shown me the tool that actually tags the content, that would be great. But he just brought up a website and talked for 5 minutes.
So as we just learned from Garth, the NBA truly is a data-driven organization. And here we've ingested all of the NBA's content. So videos, images, text documents, player telemetry, into blob storage on Azure. And we've applied cognitive skills to enhance and annotate that data. So I'm from Houston.
So you could have started
here.
here.
That the only James I care about is James Harden. But I understand a lot of folks on this coast like LeBron. So let's see what our cognitive skills can tell us about LeBron. Here, our Face API has automatically detected LeBron in this image. And it's been trained on all of the players, owners, and coaches in the NBA. So not only do we have his face, we also have lots of other additional metadata, such as emotion and age. So how does the king feel as he's about to score an epic shot in front of tens of thousands of people? Neutral. It was completely in the zone. And this guy looks like he's about to be sad in about 5 seconds. But it's not just about LeBron. How does he relate to other entities in and around the NBA? Let's take a look at the knowledge graph that Cognitive Search has automatically created for us. So this is interesting. It looks like our AI skills have detected that there's some sort of relationship between LeBron and Nike. So let's explore that a little bit further.
Okay, so this is interesting.
Here, our
this is a
object
really good way to
detection
explain
API,
data
which
lakes.
has been trained on all sorts of items that you would expect to see in the NBA. So basketballs, hoops, players, shoes, and even specific brands of shoes have determined that LeBron apparently loves wearing Nikes. And so now we know a little bit more about his fashion sense. Let's try and take a look at his performance. So how is he as a defensive player? We get back a short video that our video indexer API has automatically annotated and transcribed, showing LeBron make a defensive play. So he's good at offense, he's good at defense. How is he as a player all up? That's usually done with something called game notes. These are PDF documents created after every single NBA game, and they contain a wealth of information. So player stats, scores, play-by-plays, and we could look through every single one of these PDFs to try to build this player top performers column here on the right. But since we've already extracted all of the text from the tables and the documents themselves, we're able to build a custom algorithm with Azure Machine Learning to extend cognitive search. So this all sounds kind of like magic, right? Like being able to apply cognitive skills to the data that you've already got in Azure. So how easy would it be to go about creating this solution for yourself? Let's dive into the portal and see. So if I wanted to create a search service, all I would need to do is go to Create Resource, Web, and then click Azure Search. Or you could just search for search, I guess. But since I've already created one, let's take a look at the NBA content search service that's powering our application. If I wanted to import data, I would connect to my data source, and I can use a variety of things. So SQL databases, SQL data warehouses, Cosmos, Azure Blob Storage. And if we take a look at our existing data source, this NBA docs content, we get pulled up the container with all of the items that we've seen before. So our videos are automatically being annotated and being transcribed. Our PDF documents are having the text extracted and the images automatically documented and described.
This is
and we
really
can even apply
cool.
cognitive
Yeah,
skills
I mean, this
out
is
of
the
the
actual
box
tool.
to
Thank
extract
you very much for
people
showing
names,
us.
locations, and languages. And as mentioned before, we can also extend this cognitive search
It's also showing
with
the
custom
real
machine learning
potential
logic.
for why you'd want to do
Once
something
this has all
like
been
this to
created,
handle
we can
asset
go and look on the
discovery,
Search Explorer
management, and
and search
cataloging in your own
against all
company.
of the returned JSON. So I type in LeBron, we get back every single instance. I can even do more complex queries. So search equals LeBron and facet equals organizations, one of those things that we just clicked before, the little check boxes. And here we get back all of the organizations that LeBron is associated with. So the Cavs, the NBA, and Nike. So these cognitive capabilities, being able to apply AI to the data that you already have stored on Azure, this capability is only available with us on Microsoft's Azure platform. And they're available for public preview starting today. So I can't wait to see what you create with this AI-first approach to cognitive understanding. Thanks so much, guys.
This demo turned it around for me.
Yeah, I mean, they just started it on a really bad
So the great
note.
thing about Azure Cognitive Services is that you don't have to be an AI expert in order to take advantage of AI within your applications. But we also know that a lot of you want to be able to build your own AI models and tailor them to your precise business needs. And we provide a great way to do that on Azure. So when you typically want to build an AI model, you typically walk through a workflow where you do three things. Step one is where you prepare your data. Step two is where you build and train an AI model from it. And step three is when you deploy the model and start using it within an application. Let's walk through how we're trying to streamline all of these things using Azure. I'm going to start with sort of a simple example to illustrate these three steps. And that is trying to build an AI model that can help answer the question of how much a particular car is worth. So step one of this process, again, is to prepare my data. Now, data scientists building AI algorithms spend on average about 80% of their time doing data preparation steps, working from multiple data sources and merging the data together, finding and fixing anomalies and outliers, and standardizing on formats. It's a really arduous task, and a lot of people often refer to it as data wrangling.
I would like to point out that this keynote is already an hour longer than last year's keynote.
For Azure.
Yeah.
It enables you to quickly
here we go.
launch
Here's your
and scale
building your
up
own
Spark
AI
clusters
models.
on demand. It includes
Step
a rich
one, prepare your
interactive
data.
workspace that makes it easy to build Spark-based data workflows, and it also includes built-in data adapters that allow you to work with all the different data that you store within Azure. And it makes it
So
really easy to
where does the
prepare
debiasing of the data come in?
workflows, whether you're
That's
just working with
just
a few
with the
gigabytes of
ethical
data,
AI.
all the way up to hundreds of petabytes.
We're not to ethical AI yet.
Not yet.
Now, once we've got our data assembled for our car model, the next step is to build and train an AI model using it. Now, for example, for our car scenario, we might want to create and train a model that predicts the value of the car using a data set of historical car prices. And this process of building, training, and testing the model is going to be iterative as I evaluate various different attributes and hyperparameters to more accurately fit the model as part of my solution. And our Azure Machine Learning Service helps dramatically with this process. It enables you to train and evaluate models on any number of servers within Azure. You can literally scale up from using just one server to build and train your model to literally running across hundreds of thousands of servers with just a single parameter change in your application. Azure Machine Learning enables you to use every popular data science and AI framework out there, including TensorFlow, Caffe2, CNDK, Keras, PyTorch, and more. In addition to every popular AI framework, we've also included pre-built AI models with Azure, specifically designed for computer vision, text, and forecasting scenarios. These can dramatically improve both the performance of your AI models, as well as the speed with which you can go ahead and build solutions with them. And once you have built an AI model with our Azure Machine Learning, you can then package it up into a Docker container and deploy it to run anywhere. With our Azure Machine Learning Service, you can build and deploy AI models that literally run anywhere. This includes our new Azure Kubernetes service that you saw Scott Hanselman demo earlier, which is great for hosting an AI model that you use for online API scenarios, or our Azure Batch service if you want to iteratively batch-based process lots of data. Or you can deploy it, as you saw Jeff show, on IoT Edge for edge-based computing scenarios. And because these models are container-based, you can also run them anywhere else as well, including on-premises environments. This gives you maximum flexibility to use AI literally everywhere. And the great thing is you can take these sort of three-step flows and use it with any data stored inside Azure and make any application you work on much more intelligent. And what I'd like to do is invite Starbucks, who is another great customer of Azure, on stage.
Another person
to talk
who
about how
can't
they're
actually talk
leveraging
about the
both our
technology.
Azure data services and AI services to transform their customer experiences. So please join me in
Starbucks has done some interesting mobile
Jeff Wiley,
stuff and marketing, and I'm really curious to see if they'll actually give us
and the great
spill
work
the
they're doing.
coffee
Here's
for
Jeff.
what they're doing and how they're using Azure to do it.
Good morning. Can I borrow that?
Sure.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Hope you're having a great morning so far. This is great. And it is my pleasure to have the opportunity to spend a little bit of time sharing about how an iconic brand like Starbucks is being transformed by many of the same technologies that we've heard about this morning.
Oh, there you go.
Many of you know us,
two brands
but let me share just a little bit more
with digital transformation.
about what Starbucks looks like today. We have 28,000 stores around the globe, over 300,000 partners who proudly wear the green apron in 77 countries around the globe. All of this equates to over 100 million occasions each week where our customers visit a Starbucks store. And that equates to about $22.5 billion of revenue last year. We like to say at Starbucks that we earn that $22 billion $5 at a time. So how does all that happen? Well, our company has been built over the last 40 years on three really important pillars. Number one, hire great partners who care passionately about the craft of coffee and who care about the customers that walk into our stores. Number two, build innovative and exciting handcrafted beverages and unique food offerings, such as our brand new Nitro Cold Brew. If you haven't experienced it yet, it's life-changing. I promise you will love it. And finally, stores that are welcoming and a great place
this is
to
sort of stuff that
refresh and
people want to
relax,
listen to when your
which many of
keynote's
you
already
have come
going
to call
long.
the third place. But we've added a fourth pillar recently.
I feel like I need some coffee.
And that is technology, because we believe that technology is the enabler at Starbucks to spread that experience everywhere. Let's take a little bit of a closer look on what that technology is doing to transform our systems. We're looking to use technologies like blockchain to track our coffee around the world from bean to cup.
No.
Oh, did you have blockchain on your bingo
We're using data
card?
and modeling to share best
wish I
practices with our
hadn't.
coffee farmers around the world.
Sorry.
No, because this is, again, blockchain is a
developing
part of supply chain.
systems to
Go ahead and
It's
bring
gonna
him
be
down a
big,
little
big
bit,
focus.
because
Yeah.
they're going to have
right
some
products
engineer
to every store
talk about
at the right
what's
time,
actually happening, because
while
right
at
now
the
all we're
same
getting is a
time
Starbucks ad.
Or reducing waste.
This is, okay, look.
And
Yeah.
finally,
I get it. Yeah,
I need
Microsoft
to,
has some great AI. Show
thing
me
is,
the
look, I
AI
realize not
tools.
Everybody has sat through these same.
to make
Yeah.
sure that they're there.
Where are you logging the data? Where are you detecting it? I mean, the demo we saw many years ago, where they had the data visualization and the three unusual readings, and they could find them in the visual representation and troubleshoot. That was a compelling demo. If we could see something like that with the blockchain and AI, I'd be all for it. But
Yeah.
I just don't want to hear about it.
You don't just to go, oh yeah, we're enabling blockchain technology. Really? To do what exactly? I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's, again, I didn't have it on my bingo card. Now I regret that because I could have had a bingo. So
I should have, but I mean, I didn't see where it would possibly fit in a serious discussion about Microsoft products. I mean, right now, all we're seeing is how they do their internal inventory.
no, it's
No.
I saw Walmart do a similar presentation back in March, and while I understand this is a way to try to sell the technology, the pitch is out of the box at this point. Everybody knows the idea that you'll be able to track things from the field all the way to the shelf, and the question I still want to have answered is, explain to me how this is not basically another version of RFID. Because do you remember, like, a decade plus ago, RFID will change everything, and it's still deployed, but I get that same feeling anytime somebody starts talking about blockchain as the solution to all of your supply chain problems and all of your logistics inefficiencies.
Right. I mean, this is essentially, I'm just looking at the slides. What he's talking about is some sort of Starbucks just-in-time system, just to make sure that you have all the stock that you need, but no more than you require. Okay.
Yeah. And that's an interesting problem to solve. I read something recently. McDonald's is actually having a huge problem at its drive-thrus because people have been ordering on the apps, but there's enough of a data lag where their just-in-time food cooking and delivering isn't keeping up with the way orders are coming in between physical orders and app orders. And yeah, that's a failure. That's a failure to act on the information you're getting. So if Starbucks has read that story and went, nope, not us, good for them. But I want to know how they're doing it.
Yeah.
I want to know.
The pretty graphic doesn't do anything for me. Although he did just say AI. So Carson, if you bring him back up, maybe he's actually saying something interesting now.
Complete, we've now handcrafted that large order for our mobile customer, and it's there. Ready.
No, he's not. He's not. Okay, go ahead and bring him back down. We gave him a chance. This, unfortunately, this does seem to be a problem at some of the larger keynotes where they think they need to stock it with big names, which baffles me because this is a developer conference, and we're not going to be starstruck. We don't need to hear from so-and-so person because they run a company. We want to hear from developers.
Or if you want to bring in a big company, tell me how the big company innovated or used the back office to do something interesting and different, as opposed to inspire, nurture the human spirit. Blah, blah, blah. I'm glad that's their mission. What I want to know is how they managed to put together the data they were getting with the way people were doing their jobs and leave all parties happy.
Right. Well, I mean, like the NBA demo. If they had started with just the page and then show me how I would have been blown away. I would say that's a fantastic use case. But then they bring Jim Brown up there for that awkward presentation. It's like, don't do that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, let's
so
come back.
How Jeff is and Starbucks is using Azure to better improve their customer experience. Let's now walk through an example of the steps involved to build an AI model for a scenario like this. And to do that, I'd like to invite Paige back on stage to show us how. Here's Paige.
Hi again. Awesome. So if you've ever worked in a restaurant,
so why did she ever leave the stage?
It's an art and a science to prepare a complex order at precisely the right moment for a customer to arrive.
I'm guessing it was probably a negotiation with the customers in question where they all have to have a chance to have their brand messaging rolled into the keynote. You don't get to use our name unless we get to promote our brand mission. I feel like it's a misuse of resources because, as you pointed out, the target audience are developers, and it's not like developers are going to come out of this going, wow, thanks to that Starbucks demo, I'm really committed to using them as my primary coffee source now.
Well, Jim Brown uses Azure.
Backed by a deep neural network. Let's dive into Azure and see.
Football league.
So here I am in my Azure portal using something called a Databricks notebook. And this is an interactive, collaborative programming space for data scientists and software engineers to work together. Using Databricks, you can pull in data from a variety of sources. So here we're grabbing stuff from SQL Data Warehouse, Cosmos DB, and also some static CSV files that we have hosted on blob storage. Once our data's been pulled in, we can prepare it, remove outliers, remove null values, get it into a nice rectangular data format, and then use that to build and train our model using any framework, as Scott mentioned. So if you like TensorFlow, use TensorFlow. If you like MXNet or Cognitive Toolkit, you can use those too. And then once your model's been trained and once our hyperparameters have been tuned, you can package it up into a container and then deploy it anywhere you choose. So locally on an IoT edge device or even at scale on a Spark cluster in the cloud. And any developer in your organization can then call that model just as easily as they would a cognitive service. So let's take a look at what that would entail. So first, we bring in our data. And if I click Shift-Enter, automatically we're sending a request to the Spark cluster to pull in data from our SQL Data Warehouse. I even have data streaming in live from Cosmos DB. So let's take a look at that here. Awesome. I can also pull in orders just from blob storage. So here we're grabbing a CSV file. Now that all the data's been ingested, it's time to prepare it. So we probably don't want to keep these outliers. That would probably skew the model that we're building. So if I want to remove them, I would do orders.total order amount less than, say, 200. That seems reasonable. I click Shift-Enter again, and automatically my graph changes. So that looks like a much more representative sample. Now that we've got our data in a great state, it's time to join it and prepare our model. Here we have a neural network with 2 hidden layers, and we have 200 nodes per layer. As I mentioned before, this is backed with TensorFlow, and we're using Keras as the developer-facing front end.
See, this is actually interesting.
So what we
this
can
demo
do with Azure Machine Learning
is a
we
great
can
use of machine learning.
train and then change minutely some of our hyperparameters. Make small modifications to our model to see how that impacts our performance over time. We're aiming for high accuracy and to reduce loss as much as possible. So here you see a whole bunch of runs of our model with those minute hyperparameter changes. And lower is better. I know that's kind of counterintuitive for a performance graph, but you want to minimize your loss over time. So here it looks like that orange model is the best performing one. So that's the one that we'll package up in a Docker container and then deploy to use as the backend for our application. So we'll create a schema.json file to define inputs and outputs. We'll create a Python script to initialize and run the model, and then we'll deploy it using Azure Kubernetes Service. So now that it's been created and deployed, I click Shift-Enter with some prospective restaurant orders, and we get back an output with score categories and confidence levels. So any developer in my organization can call this REST service exactly as they would a cognitive service. As you can see, on Azure, you're capable of using any machine learning framework you choose. You can pull in data from a variety of sources, and you can use Databricks notebooks as a first-party solution. And we're the only cloud service provider that offers that functionality. I can't wait to see what you build with AI on Azure. Thanks so much.
I'm still waiting for them to do any sort of demo of that ethical AI they spoke of at the top.
We covered a lot of new services
I guess
and
just must be reassured that the AI will eventually do the right thing.
And walk through some of the amazing opportunities that are out there for all of us to build great new applications with it for this intelligent cloud and intelligent edge world. I hope you enjoy the rest of Build. We're really looking forward to getting your feedback, and I can't wait to see the great applications that you build with Azure and across the Microsoft stack. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of the conference.
There we go. That's the end of the Microsoft Build 2018 keynote. You go ahead and bring their audio down a little bit.
Yep.
So, I mean, again, that last half was a little painful because there was probably about 45 minutes of really good content for developers, and then a couple of awkward presentations.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. But the first half gave a lot of people who were not developers a really interesting peek at some of the blue sky projects at Microsoft. Again, we mentioned it, the battle of the branded bots, the real remote assistive technology. I mean, we actually got a look at practical use of something like HoloLens and mixed reality. Also, I know both of us were really enamored by the translator, the Microsoft translator built into Cortana, as well as some of the meeting room technologies. And yes, that it may take some time to get to reality. And yes, they didn't actually show us how to build those kinds of tools, but it's interesting to see it actually work in real time. They didn't have a fear of demos this year, which I really like.
Yes, it's a vote of confidence for their technologies. And what I find interesting and inspiring about Microsoft as it's currently being run is they're not afraid to forecast where they want technology to go and then say, all right, these are the steps we're taking. I know you and I were frustrated with the back third of the keynote presentations because there didn't seem to be a whole lot that synced up to the things we had seen in the beginning. But what I got overall was Satya Nadella and some of the developers saying this is the roadmap. We're heading towards voice. We're heading towards augmented reality. We are going to give you a suite of tools that make collaboration possible in a way that saves you money and eliminates distance as a concern. And then in the back half, what we got were here are some of the tools that we're working on to enable collaborative coding, which is a huge culture shift for some people still. And then they finally got into, and this is how we are beginning to offer tools to analyze the vast amounts of data that you guys have, and it will be on you to figure out how to use them. But we're pretty confident that's what you bring to the table. We just bring the tools.
Yeah, and that's my takeaway. Yeah. My takeaway is forget the glitz, forget the superstar presenters. Focus on some of the demonstrations in AI, where they showed you first contextual aware AI bots. That's amazing. And the demonstration showed that the tools available for Build attendees, it's available. For the rest of us, it will be available soon. I'd love to use that bot on the content that I currently have sitting in my my silos. And the other one was the predictive technology. Again, an AI technology. The one thing, and both of us are on the same page here, that we didn't see, that I would have loved to have seen at least a demo, was that ethical AI that they spoke of at the beginning. Because Satya just he threw it out there as, this is going to save us. And then we got no demonstration of, well, okay, is it really going to be neutral, though? Because a bot still has to be written by someone.
Yeah, there's a Patton Oswalt routine where, and I can't remember the whole routine, but he has a joke that ends with the punchline, science. It's not, can we do this? It's, should we do this? And I thought about that when Nadella basically said the same thing about AI, which is that the question you should answer should not just be, can I do XYZ with AI? It's, should I do XYZ? Right. And I did think it was interesting that he brought up the anti-bias. I think that's part of his long-term company messaging. In a way, it's almost like subtweeting Facebook and some of the other companies that have had privacy kerfluffles, or ways where they're like, oh, we had no idea our data was being used like this. His comment about how Microsoft is working to ensure democratic elections is definitely meant to allay concerns. And that ties into an interview he did with CNBC, where he said, if Microsoft is going to succeed, we have to succeed because people trust us, and people trust us to use this technology for the good. So I think a lot of it is corporate messaging, and it's a signal to investors that, look, we're calibrating our brand in a way where I will never have to go before Congress and get grilled for 2 days straight on how I used customer data, because that is a liability. But I think in terms of ethical AI, I'm not sure they have the tools yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. It was more of a long view. This was a company that is now asking its customers to give us all your data, or actually give yourself all your data, run it through our tools. If you're going to do that, you need to have some sort of disclaimer of, oh, and by the way, we're not going to misuse them. And the way you know we're not going to misuse that data.
We're not using it for evil. Yeah.
Precisely.
We made a promise.
I get it. I get it. I don't think those actually exist yet.
I want to see their bias, their anti-bias stuff. I also want to see, I am dreadfully curious to see how they're doing their language recognition, because as I commented in that one demo, they managed to get English speakers with several different accents and several different ways of speaking, and they were able to properly transcribe them. And so what I want to know is, how did that training happen, or how can you get it to happen?
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned it already, but I will say, if you download the Microsoft Translate app right now, it works on Android, it works on iOS. It's actually really good. And the nice thing about it is it's entirely standalone, so you don't even have to be connected to the internet. You just download the language packs, and it goes back and forth, and it actually uses natural language processing and one of their AI agents, so it can actually learn from its mistakes. It will get better over time. Which means that colloquialism and dialects work too. It's not merely very formal language. Yeah,
I'm sure you had the same language learning experiences I had, where it was like, "Good afternoon, Consuelo, vamos, let's go to the beach," and then you'd have to translate it into something that never worked when you tried it with a native speaker. Right. So,
I will say this: even if only the translation feature works, if that's the only thing that come out of this keynote that makes it into your office, into your enterprise, that's well worth it. Again, great technology, really great technology. I don't want to let the looseness of the keynote towards the end detract from the fact that Microsoft actually did show off some wonderful tools here. And we'll see tomorrow, a lot tomorrow. This was sort of day one. Day two, I actually think will be more exciting, more interesting.
Yeah, there's Joe Belfiore, and he works now on Windows 10 and Microsoft 365. So it will be really interesting to see what comes out tomorrow and how they're positioning it, especially relative to the really lengthy storied history of both Windows and Microsoft Office.
I've been speaking with Lisa Schmeiser. She has been my co-pilot listening to Microsoft Build Day 1, their keynote in 2018. Lisa, thank you so very much for your commentary. I know this was a little longer than we were anticipating. I think they underestimated the time that they would need, but it's been a very good experience, and it actually kind of leaves me hopeful for developers. Any last words?
No, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I had I learned a great deal from you too, and things to look out for in future keynotes. So thank you. I had a great time.
And Lisa, can you tell?
I hope the viewers did too.
Yeah. Could you tell our audience where they can find you?
Sure. I'm an editor at IT Pro Today, so you'll find me shaping or assigning most of the pros. I do occasionally have a byline there, and I am on Twitter at @Schmeiser, as you can see in the bottom third there.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Lisa. And folks, don't forget that today, or if you're doing this on the download, the very next download for Windows Weekly will be Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley from the Build Conference. So if you actually want to see their experience from the floor, you're going to want to check that out. If you're watching us live, it's going to be at 3:00 p.m. Pacific time, again, live.twit.tv. Until then, I'm Father Robert Ballecer, the Digital Jesuit, saying thanks for watching our coverage of the Build Keynote, Day 1, 2018.